and welcome to Big Witch Energy, the podcast that journeys into the wonderful and witchy world of Motherland, Fort Salem. We're going to recap and discuss all of the delicious content in every episode. I'm Bree.
And I'm Theora.
Come along with us while we dive deep into the hows, whys, whos, and what of this amazing show. Hey everybody, it's time for another episode. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
No.
No.
No,
You were lying. I was gaslighting all of you.
I know you were lying. Because it's episode 9,
No.
which is titled The Coup. Aptly titled The Coup. Written by Maria Magenti.
Maria, she back. Yeah, Magenti.
And
she back. With the pain.
Directed by Steven Adelson, one of our faves.
Yeah, he loves his drop shots.
I've noticed. Love his drop shots. Oh my gosh, especially in this first opening sequence.
Yeah, he always starts the show with a drop shot.
Like starts with the drop shot, and then the end of this, like towards the end of the scene, with the drop shot.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that one's like real good though. You needed that one.
You needed that.
You needed it. But normally
it gave
he's
an
like,
impact.
woo!
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, we're flying.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, why are we here?
Oh, I feel like I have a broom and I'm from Hogwarts.
We're with Flying Lady.
We're with Flying Lady. That's what it is. Steven's
a
big fan of Flying Lady, and
Elliot wrote her in just for Steven.
So that's who we're with, but he won't tell us that because it would ruin the magic.
This is probably my favorite Flying Lady headcanon. It's actually
Mine too.
A gift for Steven.
Mine too. I'm glad Flying Lady's somebody's favorite, but
I love her.
So
we'll name her eventually.
We will name her someday. We are going to start this episode in the Altai Mountains, which is the last known location of the Tarim, or Tarim, depending on whom you are. Yeah. So we have Raylla's Jesus light in a creepy forest, and I, for one, don't like it. So I quit.
Yes, Raylla's light, but it's also like kind of reddish.
It's reddish, yellow, like, misty. Yeah. Well, it's like bloody Raylla's light.
Correct. And I was like, ooh, like horror lighting maybe is what they were going for?
It's horror lighting, and later on in this scene, I'll let you know what this reminds me of. So there's an army unit that's sneaking along through the forest not very well because they're making all sorts of noise.
Bad spice.
So they happen upon an obvious abandoned camp, which is has not been abandoned by choice. You can tell because of all of the, I don't know, carnage of belongings, and there's some blood on a tree. I couldn't tell if they were scratches or if it was just blood on the tree, because they made it look like there were like lines of blood instead of just, and I'm like,
oh yeah, like somebody's bloodied hand was trying to grab the tree.
Yeah, like clawing at the tree.
Yeah, I don't know either. Or they're just like, oh look, follow the blood, like the murderer did it. I don't know.
It's like obviously follow the trail, but it made me think of a big monster being there for some reason because of the size of the blood stain.
Ooh, I like that. We'll go with that. Good symbolism.
So there's also they also kind of zoom in on this little doll that's worse for wear, but it kind of looks like Raylla to me. It looks a little bit like Raylla, and I'm like, man, Lesbian Jesus shows up everywhere.
More symbolism.
So the leader of the army unit sees a dead Tarim with their vocal cords removed, and then you get this shot where you see that all of these dead bodies, like the whole unit gathers around, and there are all these dead Tarim bodies that are in the shape of a pentagram. And I'm like, did the satanic panic come back? Are we back in the 90s, 80s, and 90s?
I mean, we don't know what time it is, so maybe.
Ritualistic murder. So that's where we get that gorgeous but also freaky drop shot from above of the giant pentagram of dead bodies. And all the army folks kneel in respect, and that's when you get that top shot of the bodies. But it's I don't know. They were saying something or
Yeah, that was my question. I was like, what exactly were the witches doing when they were kneeling? Were they like doing like, oh, the fallen witches, like kind of like paying homage, or were they doing necro intel magic? I couldn't tell.
I thought that since all of them were doing it, that it was just a kind of a respect.
But the first one kneels first, so I was
Mhm.
like, was she the necro in the group?
Well, she also touches one of the dead bodies.
Right, exactly. That's what made me think of it, because her behavior was slightly different than like everybody else in the group.
I just figured it was because she was highlighting that the person was dead, and they were like, "Oh, here's a body with the vocal cords removed."
Yeah, I'm desperate for necro crumbs.
You basically that's what it comes down to is Theora wants all the necro information she can get.
I do. Also, fun fact: when they were walking toward, like they didn't get to the bodies yet, but then when they're walking towards, like after they like pass the blood smear on the tree,
Mm-hmm.
there's a crow screech. So,
Hey.
death omen. Because the same thing happened to Kalita when they were in like that healing scene. There's like all the crows.
That's true.
That's what made me think of necros. That's all I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
But aren't we always thinking of necros?
Yes.
To be honest.
I'm always thinking of necros in the spree.
Yeah, same. So we get the opening theme after that. And when we're done with that, it's back to Fort Salem, where Tally is very, I don't know what the word is. I can't find a word for it. She's upset and excitable in a way in which she's very adamant that they need to do something about the fact that Alder's lying about the civilians that they killed. And so Tally is like, Alder's lying, and Rail's like, duh, everybody lies. Because she's got all that like trauma from Scylla lying to her. I'm like, also they're marching with other cadets. Can they not be heard by everyone behind them?
What is this drill?
Do they have some kind of cone of silence? They're not even running fast or anything.
No.
They've got
no. What are they? What is this drill? Because again, it's like when that running thing they did with Flying Lady, where they fuck off by the end of the drill, and you're like, what was this drill? Like,
I honestly think Flying Lady's above them, and they're just jogging.
This is her lesson.
Yeah,
that's why this could happen. And they're like, let's talk, guys.
Let's talk. Yeah,
it's
but
weird.
The other cadets can freaking hear them. This is just another example of no one being subtle.
Yeah, this will be in the morning gossip over breakfast because they're being loud.
Over the Cheerios.
Mm-hmm.
So Abigail is once again trying to provide party line points, but Tally says that she can still feel what the civilians that died were feeling, and they stop, and everybody else jogs on. So I guess Flying Lady's just not paying attention.
Right.
It doesn't care.
This has her signature all over it.
Exactly. So they have a back and forth a little bit, but in the end, Rail's like, we've got your back, Tal. Like, we're going to support you no matter what. And Abigail agrees. So you see the unit is just so super solidified at this moment against everything around them. So Tally says a really good line in "We were used and Libba paid the ultimate price," which is true.
No,
I mean, but all soldiers get used, but to put them out there before they finish basic, sweet Jesus.
Yeah, they were used with reckless abandonment, which I think is the worst part.
Absolutely. And then you think about Alder and how she was, we talked about that whole decision that she made in the last episode. So
oh yeah, and the consequences of her big decision come back in this episode, really, and you see like who all the people that affected and how that's going to ultimately affect their relationships with Alder and the army by extension. Precisely. Really, yeah, so it's pretty important.
The army, it affects everybody in the world,
technically. Yeah. Yeah, it sure does.
And that just tells you how big the decisions Alder is making are.
Yeah, her decisions literally changed the course of the world. Like we saw that with the timeline of history.
Yep.
So, yeah, not easy decisions facing Alder, and you know, anytime she makes a decision, there's going to be consequences. That's just how decisions work.
Yeah. That's one of the points of the show, too. So everyone is making decisions that are going to come back to them in one way or another, whether it be positive or negative.
Correct. Yeah. I feel like this is a very good episode for multiple characters that really highlights that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. I just want to note a couple of quick things about that scene. I love that Tally is still the one who, quotes, feels the hostages.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because she notes that, just like she did with the pool in the Beltane episode. So with Tally, it's not necessarily like, I have all this extra energy, I can feel these deaths. I feel like she just has higher empathy than most people and can, like, tap into that kind of magic. And also, like, her guilt is, like, tethering her to that. But Tally's pretty powerful, and I feel like that kind of highlights just how powerful she really is.
It does.
It's like a subtle line. Yeah.
It's another thing where we need more information about knowers. Like, do they
totally
have an empath part of their work?
Yeah, and I think Elliot's, like, kind of sprinkling that with Tally, but yeah, we don't get the full information. So I thought that was significant. And
you never get the full information with Elliot.
No, Elliot, tell me about the necro reports.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know. And yeah, the line about Libba paying the ultimate price, I think, is very, very poignant. It comes up multiple times. And with Tally, I think that she's going through what Raylla went through in the last episode, which is the 5 stages of grief. But, like, Tally doesn't get through all 5 stages. I think she gets very stuck in denial and bargaining throughout this whole episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got a good amount of the anger as well.
Oh, yeah. And she does dip into anger. Ugh, yeah. We'll get there. Alrighty. So from the opening scene, we move over to a mama-daughter bellwether chat in Cersei Barracks. And I want to note the position when we walk in, or when we don't walk in, when Steven shows us the scene. Mama Bellwether's on the bed, so she's lower, and then Abigail is standing, so she has, like, the symbolic high ground for this conversation. And Abigail is bathing in the lesbian Jesus light coming through the window, while Mama is kind of sitting in the shadows. So it's like headspaces and, like, intentions for this kind of conversation. I think it's also symbolic of Abigail's dawn of a new era because of the way she handles this conversation with Mama Bellwether. And basically what happens in this conversation is Petra expresses all of her frustration about Alder sending her daughter off into this mission. So everybody's, like, fixated on the city drop thing from their own perspective in this episode, really. And Mama's mad. She's like, she sent you guys out there when you weren't even ready. So she's mad at Alder's decision making, which jeopardized Abigail and, like, the Bellwether stuff. So she's mad about that. And Abigail, like, automatically goes defensively about this. She's like, look, we did the best we could. And Mama's like, that's not the point. Like, you did great. You were brave. You were honorable. I'm proud of you. And I think that's a very big moment because I'm proud of you from Petra is the thing Abigail has been seeking since episode 1, like that phrase. Because in the Bellwether household, affection's tied to achievement. And so this I'm proud of you is like, I love you, basically.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, no, it totally is. And you see it on Abigail's face when she receives this. She's like, wow, like, I finally heard this from you.
Validation, yo.
Yes, validation. Exactly right. And she gives a, like, thank you, Mom. And then Mama cuts back to, like, business stuff. She's like, yeah, whatever, we did love. And she's like,
we took a pit stop in love and now we're back to business.
Yeah, she's like, back to business. So you, Abigail, are going to be expected to give Liv's eulogy because, interestingly, she's the only other, like, high Atlantic on par with Abigail, like, status-wise, which is fascinating. So I wonder if that's, like, because of the dwindling of all these lines. But, and so, like, apparently this is a custom thing. Like, the other, you know, those of equal ranking in this high Atlantic culture pay homage and respect to the other ones in this kind of situation. And Abigail's like, yeah, I know. I read the Bellwether playbook. I get that.
I think she's expecting argument.
Yeah, and Mama almost, like, Mama was, like, expecting the argument because, again, Mama's still in I hate the Swythe land, but, like, Abigail's kind of already gotten past that. So they're not on the same page with this piece yet. And I think this is Abigail's new era moment because she's less ignorant of the world now. She's, you know, and she's like, this petty rivalry with her is really stupid. What's the point of this? There's bigger enemies out there. I'm being targeted. Like, my life could end tomorrow. Charvel's dead. So I think that's the symbolism of this conversation with Abigail, for sure. And at the end, Mama's like, great daughter of mine, I'll help you with the speech, and hugs Abigail. There's no pet, there's a hug.
There's
so this is like
actual hugging contact.
Yeah, this is actual real affection happening. It only lasts a second, but it's something.
This is jeez. I have to say I feel Abigail on this because my family was very similar in the affection department. Like, I didn't get a hug from my mom until I was 19 and leaving for Europe. So it was like, we don't do I love yous, we don't do the hugs. And so I totally feel Abigail on this, and I understand like her facial expression where it was just like, this is kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Didn't expect
totally.
this. You're just not accustomed to that kind of physical affection.
No, same seas. I don't come from a hugging household either. My wife does. So I still have that reflex where I'm like, oh God, people are hugging me. This is weird. What's going on? Who died?
Who died? What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. So I get that.
Yeah. Oh, Mama Bellwether. She has a lot of stuff in this episode, which starts with the next scene. But the first character we see is Alder, who's staring at a map on the wall, I guess surveying her missions and business.
She's staring at Mongolia specifically. Yeah. I was like, what is happening
She's
in this
super
scene?
into Mongolia.
Yeah.
I'm guessing she's staring at the area where the Tarim are supposed to have been.
That's what I thought.
So
somewhere around Mongolia, I guess, is where those mountains are.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, they say China and Russia are the people that are going to be fighting over this. So
yeah,
we've got Petra and Isadora walking in, and Isadora has a big box or case with her.
She does.
So first of all, Petra gives the report of 15 refugees with vocal cords removed, and all the biddies hiss again. So we got the biddy hiss going on in the background.
We also have biddy chess going on.
Yes, biddy chess in the background. Holla.
A new game.
New game for the bids. So the biddy hiss is pops up a couple times in this episode.
It sure does. They get their hiss on this episode.
They do. So Petra's main point in coming, I feel like she came there with the intent to say these particular things, which is, what if it's not the spree? And that's when Isadora
says it, because Isadora has the brain cell.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Isadora.
Well, Petra and Isadora are on the same page right here because it totally furthers Petra's agenda for this to be, not the spree, but
thank you, Isadora.
Yeah, so Isadora showcases her collection that she stole from Memorial Hall.
That was my what was she doing off screen. I think she straight up stole that.
Well, she says it.
She's like, oh, I got it from... No, so that woman straight up stole that. Like, she was obviously in the lab and like looking at this stuff and thinking like, I'm missing something. Like, this is too nice. This is too technical. There's no way this is the spree. Where have I seen this before? And so I feel like somehow she ended up in Memorial Hall, which was like, if you don't remember, that's like the Army Museum that's on base. And so I think she was just like walking through there and then found this and was like, oh, and like without thinking about it, just like took it. And then one of the museum guards is like, ma'am, what are you doing? And then I think Isadora just like put her to sleep and left with this box. So I think she straight up stole the box off screen.
See, I think she had a light bulb moment and was like, oh, wait a minute. Those vocal cords that I studied way back when I was a cadet in Memorial Hall, because she's stolen them before to look at them.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I like that better. Isadora has stolen these before for science.
Exactly, because everything is for science with her.
So that's what Isadora and young Isadora was doing off screen.
Exactly.
Stealing vocal cords. But were they vocal cords? They were so tiny, or were they like
they were shriveled up, dried vocal cords.
Okay, so it just seemed really.
They're not.
Tiny.
They're not the whole. It doesn't seem like it's either not the whole vocal cord, or they have dried and shriveled enough that they're so small, like a beef jerky vocal cord.
Right. Okay. I was trying to figure that out because I was like, these seems really small for vocal cords.
But I'd also like to say that I'll never forget Memorial Hall, because that was the creepiest porter
Yes, the evaporating scene where he just shows up. Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know how anybody forgets Memorial Hall. So whatever.
Yep.
Uh, so she shows Alder the vocal cords and that the Camarilla collected forever ago. So we're going back to about probably over 100 years to 200 years here.
Yeah, 1600s is the thing from Memorial Hall.
Right.
So at least back then.
And she's saying, hey, look at this. This is exactly how the vocal cords were removed in the modern victims that we had, all the bellwethers. And Alder's kind of entertaining it, not really entertaining it, but she's letting her talk, and she's picking up like a label and looking at it. And then eventually Alder slaps back with the Camarilla, really. And then Petra jumps in to try to help, saying that her mom used to say the Camarilla would steal her voice away in her sleep if she didn't sing her seeds before bed.
Yeah.
So the Camarilla are like the boogeyman for witches.
Right, but isn't that the way human history goes? Like, they
Absolutely.
tell childhood fables about, like, real stuff to
Yeah,
scare
like
them?
all of the like fables really are a metaphor for something real that people were trying to scare their children away from.
Exactly. So that's so that goes to show, like, that this was, like, verbally passed down from, like, generations to generations. So, like, this is, like, the ancient enemy. Call back to the pilot.
Exactly. Alder's absolutely not convinced.
No, she's in denial about all this.
She's in denial, and Isadora is trying to say, hey fam, these vocal cords they're removed in the exact same way.
The science says this.
The science and the actual facts say this.
Right.
But Alder just thinks the spree is copycatting the Camarilla, because that kind of hatred no longer festers in the world. I don't know what freaking trip down the river denial she's on, but it's obviously a long one. She says that they have a very real enemy, which is the spree, and they don't need an imaginary one. Open your damn eyes, Alder. This is the episode where Alder's so laser focused with blinders on that she can only see one goal and the way to get there, which is very questionable on a moral grounds.
I think part of it too is Alder's own hubris, because she has the line, "I rooted out the Camarilla 200 years ago." So in Alder's mind, she's like, I already defeated this enemy.
Like, it was me, and I did it.
Right, it was me. I was there. I did it. What are you guys talking about? This is all obviously the spree.
Don't
so I
question
think that's
me.
part of it. Yeah, I think that's part of it in Alder's, like, kind of isolation, where she's not taking advice from other people, and in her mind, this case was closed. So I think that might be part of it.
I think she's on the defensive so much that any perceived attack to her prowess, because it's also saying, well, the Camarilla survived, so you didn't do such a good job.
Right, exactly. It's a salt in the wound of, like, what's going on with President Wade, where she's like, why haven't you defeated the spree yet? So yeah, I think it's partially that too. Good point. Yeah.
So she refocuses them back to the Tareem because they're the priority, and she says that she can handle President Wade, which is famous not good. Words. Yeah, famous last words. Do not, ma'am. And the warning bells are going off in my head.
Oh yeah.
But that was that scene that gives us a view into where Petra is and where Alder is, and how they are not in any way, shape, or form on the same map.
No, and I think it also very subtly points to the fact that Petra is gaining influence within Alder's rank with Isadora. Because we saw Isadora in the last episode, I think, with City Drop, where when Alder gave her the order to, like, hey, I don't care about the hostages, like, tell them to, like, kill those bitches, and Isadora hesitated and looked at Clary. I think this, like, Isadora wasn't on board with this, and I think this scene is showing that Petra's already like, hey, Isadora, bestie.
Sliding into Isadora's DMs.
Yeah, literally sliding into Isadora's lab, and, like, they're besties. And so I think that's what this is also very subtly showing, is that Petra's gaining her general's influences or whatever Isidore is.
So she's already got Clary on her side, we know, from the
Correct.
wedding.
Correct.
And she's got Isadora now, so...
Right. Yeah, and so, because, like, again, it's a double-edged sword. Alder's isolating herself, and then she can't see the facts, so she can't see the Camarilla stuff. She can't see the fact that her officers are hovering towards Petra. Like, she kind of can't see it because, like you said, she has the blinders on so much that she cannot see. She just can't deal with the things around her. It's, yeah.
I'm also glad that we can now talk about the Camarilla openly.
Yeah. Oh, yes, guys. No more spoilers.
No more spoilers.
Thanks, Isadora. This is why I love you so much.
Thank you for breaking us out of that prison.
So after that, we leave the adults and go to the baby adults, where the unit is all gathered in the common room, and we focus in on Tally and only Tally, and everything is literally blurry and murmury because Tally is just lost in thought and just racked with the aftermath of her role in City Drop, like everybody else. But for Tally, she's taking this very, very personally because she saw the hostages, she felt the hostages, and she can't deal with the fact that they were ordered to kill them. And during this conversation, like, Raylla and Abigail are, like, kind of trying to talk to her, but Tally's very much, like, whatever, just very lost in her own world. And until Abigail finally calls her out, she's like, you're obviously not fine, Tally. Because Tally's baggage is out in the open at this point, and she's the one who isn't the fine one. Where, like, the previous episodes was, like, Abigail and Raylla dealing with their own I'm not fine and putting their baggage out there. Now it's, like, Tally's turn, basically. And she's struggling with just reality. And she says, very key dialogue from her was, like, you know, what we did to the people, meaning those hostages, is not why I came here. Because remember, Tally was the one who had the option not to join the army. And she chose to do it anyway because she came here to do some good, and that's what she voices out here. And I think the reason why this is so difficult for her is because the reality of this, like you mentioned earlier, is that sometimes soldiers are ordered to do horrible things for the greater good, quote unquote. And that's kind of what this situation was. And Tally doesn't know how to, like,
process
that and, like, deal with that, because in her mind, she's like, she really bought into the propaganda of, like, what we always do is good as the army, and that's not the case. There's, sometimes you have to put your own morality aside to do what's, good, quote unquote, for the whole, meaning the country, the world, whatever. And so Tally can't accept this. This is her bargaining.
Yeah. And it's a real contrast to, because we've always known that Raylla and Abigail were very aware of this fact that they were going to have to do some fucked up shit as soldiers. So they came to terms with that before they even got there.
Mm-hmm.
And Tally has not been to the threshold of that until now, where she got shoved into the room and the door was closed.
Yeah, I think Tally was really, as a child, only presented with the opposing views. She had Mama Craven, who was like, you're not doing this, it's a death sentence, this killed my whole family, you're not doing this, the army is evil. And then the opposite end of the spectrum was the Reverie book she was reading under her blanket as a child that is propaganda from the army that only paints the good picture. So Tally was never exposed to the middle ground. I think that's the point, and that's a social commentary piece, because when you only show people extremes, they don't know how to deal with the moral gray, and that's where Tally is right now. She's like, well, how do I deal with reality? Because I've only been presented these very polarized perspectives of the army, and so that's where Tally's at. And so she's not ready to accept this reality, and she's like, we have to do something because I can't sit with these lies. This is killing me, basically. And they're like, Abigail's like, why do we need to do anything? Like, it's done. And just Tally cannot accept the fact that they were involved in something deeply unjust, and Alder is to blame. And I think the other piece is that Alder, again, is synonymous with the army. Somebody Tally obviously idolizes, and, like, she's like, I don't know how to, like, put Alder in the moral gray either, because she's always this mythological figure on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. And Raylla's like, yeah, okay, the army's shit. But, like, who the fuck do we tell this to? Like, who do we go to? We went to Anacostia before. That never ends well. Like, she's close to Alder. And then Petra comes up because, again, Petra's Abigail's mom. But also, if anybody is, like, very close to Alder in terms of power and influence, it's Petra. Mm-hmm. So, but they also happen to have an in with her. And Abigail, at first, is like, my mom follows the book. She's a bellwether. she's not going to go against the chain of command. But they're like, maybe this is bigger than that. And, then Tally yells out, "This isn't going to go away." And all the gossipy cadets in the room get really quiet and look at them. So we know what the tea is going to be on base for the next week about them again.
Well, they've already had the tea from when they were running.
That's what they were discussing in the background until Tally did this. And they're like, "Oh no, another bellwether breakdown.
She's going over the edge."
Yeah, so
watch out, she's gonna sleep everybody like Collar did.
Exactly. So the bellwethers are going to be the gossip of the base.
They're always the gossip of the base.
I know, they really are. Anyway, so eventually they kind of get off this conversation and ultimately decide that the unit pact that they made, no more secrets between them, is what's most important. And so they kind of comfort Tally at the end and do a group hug in the Lesbian Jesus light. And so
it was pretty adorable.
It was very cute. So they are bonding and getting to the point where they're putting their trust in each other above their trust of literally everybody else, which is important for them.
Very important.
Yeah.
So what is not happening in the next scene is any of that trusting and group bonding.
No, it's the literal opposite.
Because Alder is coming with the bad news. So we got Kalita and Adil eating their lunch or whatever they're eating. I don't know what time of day it is.
I don't either, but she has orange juice. So is it breakfast? I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. I drink orange juice. I would drink orange juice with anything, but
right. I don't know that that's indicative, but who the fuck knows?
Who the heck knows? This could be brunch. But Alder and the biddies come in, and she says, "I have terrible news. More of your people have been murdered. I will intervene." So she's going to use the Tareem got murdered, more Tareem got murdered, to go in and intervene. But her ultimate goal is obviously getting these songs. She's so desperate to get these songs.
Yep.
Kalita stops her in her tracks with that, saying that they already know. Because Kalita's close to being a high priestess of the Tareem. She knows everything that is happening to her people.
She has so much big witch energy. She's just Alder, please. You don't think I don't know? I know. I already knew you were coming.
Exactly. I knew you were coming. I knew when they died. I knew how they died. And I knew, I saw the drop shot. So
yeah, I don't even need the necro reports. I already know.
Yeah, exactly. So she's saying, don't intervene. And Adil's kind of, hey, but what about our people? And they're going to be extinct. We're going to be the only ones left. There's only 10. So, WTF. But Kalita's standing her ground because she's sticking to the pacifist. And she also knows what Alder wants. So she's not dumb, Kalita.
No, she's definitely not dumb, but I think she's much more rigid in her belief system versus Adil, which I think is important when highlighting the two of them. Because, like you said, he doesn't seem on board with the whole let's die without help thing. Because remember, he was the one who was watching Kalita die and was like, I'm not going to let you die here. I'm going to try everything I can, and brought her to the army. So, he seems more willing to change his ways to adapt to reality versus Kalita, the pious, devout one who's clinging to their cultural beliefs in this unyielding way. So I think that's important when highlighting these two siblings.
Exactly, because when she tells Alder not to intervene, Alder's like, but your people are gonna be wiped out, and she says, then it will be our end.
Exactly. It's very black and white the way she's looking at this. She's like, okay, well, that's what's gonna happen, whatever. And Adil's like, but does it? Yeah.
So think about what she's offering, but Kalita thinks the risk is too great.
Totally.
And Adil thinks that there's no risk that isn't worth stopping the annihilation of their people.
Mm-hmm.
And Kalita points out, well, you know what's going to happen if our songs fall into the hands of governments and armies. So she's right in that regard. So they're pointing out the very, very big rock and hard place that they're in.
Totally.
because there'd be no more world to fight over. So their magic and their songs are so powerful that they could probably like just crack the earth in two or something. That's the impression I get.
Yeah, I think the symbolism / allegory here is like this is like a world war situation, and like the Tarim are like the nuclear bomb.
Yeah,
that's what I think this really is. But instead of just like the race to make the nuclear bomb to destroy the world, I think the Tarim are in this position where they have the bomb, they're aware of what it can do, and they're like, if you get this, we understand the consequences, and we are not willing to let you unleash this no matter what. So I think that's what this is symbolizing.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I mean, they could have stalled them with a little bit of this and a little bit of that if
totally
want to get technical, but that is not going to ultimately solve their problem. But I think Kalita has a line here that I really thought was important, which was our commitment to peace is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So that tells you exactly where she stands.
Right.
But that pisses Alder off. Whew. Got on the wrong side of that because Alder is like, oh, you're alive because of me? But Kalita slaps back with, not you exactly. And she smiles. Oh my god!
I love it! The big witch energy.
That little smile she gives.
She got some of Raylla's sass when they winked.
Had to be. But the way that she made... I love when she's making everything shake, like the building shake, and Adil like just kind of reaches over with his foot and kicks her shin. Like, hey, stop it. You're acting like a little kid.
Right.
That you are. And I'm like, she is a little kid, so she still has that in her. Like,
I love her.
It doesn't matter if you're like a high priestess, you're still a kid. So
I'll put you in timeout, queen.
Yeah. Go wear the dunce hat.
She's so great. I love Kalita.
I love Kalita too. I'm so glad that she's going to be around season 3.
She just reminds me too. She just reminds me so much of Scylla though, because she's just stupidly powerful. She's not afraid to tell you the fuck off. She's very like tied to her beliefs and like will carry them through to the end. So I find a lot of interesting parallels between the two of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's super fun.
It'd be fun to see them together.
Yeah, no, that is on my wish list. Like I want them to interact.
Absolutely.
Really badly.
But
anyway, sorry.
You have anything else here?
No, just the big witch energy is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I love it.
2 of them.
And just Alder, it's just like Alder's having like the worst week ever. It's really is this episode.
Oh yeah.
This is like even this kid has put me in my place, you know?
Yeah. Not once but twice.
Yeah, no, I know. Every interaction with Kalita ends poorly since she's been awake.
She probably wishes she was still asleep.
She does. A last little thing about this, again, is the lighting. They do a lot of lighting to contrast stuff in this episode. And so when they enter, again, like the Tarim are in the Lesbian Jesus light and Alder and Biddy's in the shadows. So again, it's like good intentions, bad intentions kind of thing, or polarizing views of stuff. So it's very fun the way they lit this episode.
I don't know why I was so interested in this, but I wanted to see what food they had on their plate, but I kept getting distracted by the actual conversation.
All I saw was the orange juice. But yeah, I don't know what they were eating.
Because we had a discussion, there was a discussion the other day amongst some of our friends where we were like, what do they actually eat? Like, what's the set food? I'm like, I've seen mashed potatoes. I've seen Raylla play with mashed potatoes, and that's all I can remember.
I've seen fruit. Tally plays with fruit on multiple episodes.
Salami.
Yeah, salami shows up a lot for some reason.
Because it's such a dry, cured meat, so it's easy to keep around.
Totally. So, yeah, I'm gonna say, but orange juice was there, so Kalita's getting her vitamin C.
Yep.
And so after Kalita just puts Alder in her place, much to Alder's displeasure, we move back over to Petra's office where the unit is just dropping tea. And again,
dropping tea like nuclear bombs.
Yeah. And again with the lighting. So the unit is in the Lesbian Jesus light and Petra's in the shadows. So
Petra's always in the shadows.
Petra's always in the shadows because Petra is just behind the scenes pulling all the strings. So that's what's happening here.
A little snaky snake.
And the unit doesn't realize they're playing right into her big master plan. But they are here to snitch on Alder in the hostage situation like they discussed previously because Tally can't live with the lie, basically. And so she lets it drop. She's like, hey, I saw hostages in the truck. And Alder lied about it. And Petra's like, yeah, this tea is nice, but I already knew this because I'm the head of intelligence.
It's not hot tea.
This is not hot tea. I drank this tea last week. The spree, and then she reiterates the propaganda. She's like, well, the spree chose to kill them, blah, 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 propaganda. And Tally's like, we executed them. I told Mama Costia, who told Alder, and then Alder's like, whatever, kill them. And Petra's like, yeah, well, collateral damage is part of war. We're at war. Do you guys not remember this? Like,
yeah.
Hello, you're soldiers. And Tally's face just, like, we sit there for like a second where it just falls, and she's like, what the fuck? Because again, she is like, why does nobody care about morals? Abigail's rolling her eyes in the background like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen.
But
and Mama's
Raylla,
like, Mama first is like, you guys need to focus on graduating. Like, cause, yeah, like, you guys need to graduate. Yeah, like, go back to that. And Raylla pulls out the big guns. She's like, I have actual tea. The base has been infiltrated by the spree. And now this is what Mama Costia needed, or not Mama Costia, Mama Bellwether needed for the coup. And she's like, what? And so she lets it drop that about Scylla, because Raylla's mind's always on Scylla, even when she's mad at Scylla and distraught. And she's like, yep, Scylla's in the Necro lab somewhere. They're interrogating her. That's how they got the Baylord auto intel that didn't come from you, head of intelligence. And then we get a sexy jaw clench from Petra. And she dismisses the unit. She's like, okay, thanks for the tea. Get out. I have a coup to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about this is that it's the humanity in Petra, because we talked about this a couple episodes ago. Like, they kept sprinkling like Petra versus Alder stuff throughout this whole season. And from Petra's point of view, Petra being the ambitious one, again, must be very frustrated by the fact that she can never be on Alder's level because there's no getting rid of Alder. So here's this opportunity where she's like, oh, the thing we've been fighting, you've been harboring those agents and told no one. Maybe this is the thing I can use to get rid of you, and then I can be in charge, because that's really been Petra's goal this whole time. Because Bellwether, ambition, she's just trying to, get up there. And also, like, what a slap in the face this is, because Petra is the head of intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And Alder did not let her in on this. So not only is Petra in this position where she's distrusting of Alder, in Petra's mind, she's like, wow, Alder doesn't trust me either. And so this is, like, all kinds of fucked up, like, for her. So I think it's really interesting the way the characters can kind of interpret each other's actions. And I think that's partially what's happening here with Petra. She's like, wow, Alder, I was right not to trust you because you obviously don't trust me. So,
right. The only people that we know of that knew about Scylla were obviously Raylla after she was brought in there, Isadora, and Anacostia. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that was Alder's super inner circle.
Yeah, I think Isadora was there because they had to tell her because she was a necro, mm-hmm. But Mama Costi in particular, like Demetria says in the After the Storm, she's like, there's very little that Alder does where Mama Costi is not brought into it. Mm-hmm. So you're exactly correct. But for Petra, she's like, wow, what a slap in the face. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm your head of intelligence. This was giant intelligence, and I was not brought in on this. You don't trust me? Good, I don't trust you either.
Yep.
So then she can rationalize her coup a lot more because of this. After that, we move over to Alder and Mama Costia having their own chat. And what are they doing? Is this lunch? I think this is lunch with the biddies.
It's lunch with the biddies. Wine and dinner. Lunch with the biddies.
Yeah, wine and lunch with the biddies. And, Mama Costia brings up the fact that Alder doesn't eat, because we've never seen Alder eat. We've seen her drink the whiskey. And here it's like, it's always apparently wine o'clock for Alder, where she's like, eating's overrated, like, whatever. Because I guess that's, like, a vampire. It's part of, like, just being in this weird in-between life and death stage where she can't really eat anymore.
But do the biddies eat for her?
Yeah, so biddies are chowing down at the table. But she can drink wine, I guess, or alcohol, so that's her thing.
I'm like, does she get sustenance from the biddies eating?
I guess, because they're the ones keeping her alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, when they die, her body ages dramatically.
All that biddy juice.
All the biddy juice.
Yeah, she drinks her biddy juice in the morning.
It sounds like a really bad, like, pyramid scheme.
It really does. Oh my God. I'm going to make this. I'm going to make an edit of biddy juice.
Wait, biddy juice. It's like, do you want to have the strength of 7 elderly women? Yeah. Look no more.
What a selling point.
That's what I mean. Like, for the low price of $9.99. Get a case of bitty juice.
The health and vitality of 7 elderly women.
It comes in 2 flavors, whiskey or wine.
Yep. Whiskey or Merlot.
Yeah. So that's bitty juice, guys. You heard it here, folks. Let us know if you want some.
We definitely don't have it, but we can.
No, we definitely don't.
Come up with something.
So that's what's happening here. And while they're talking about this, Mama Costia transitions the conversation to about Scylla. And this is the point where I'm friends with Mama Costia again because she's
absolutely. Like we can go back and be BFFs with Anacostia again.
Yeah, but Alder is not on our train, and she's like, ugh, whatever. Let's just send her away. She's a spree agent. And Mama Costia at this point with Scylla, like Demetria said, like, there's kind of like a connection between the two of them, which we'll kind of get into later. But part of it is that she sees the humanity in Scylla because they linked, and, you know, she saw the conflict or whatever. But the other piece is that Mama Costia understands the strategy involved with Scylla. She's like, well, if I can get her to talk, we can learn things about this spree. So she could be useful from like a strategy army perspective. And I think that's really what she's trying to push here with Alder. But Mama Costia has like the humanity component too, which is why she wants to keep Scylla. And she tries to express that. She's like, hey, she could be useful. And Alder's like, why are you still talking about this? Like, every day we keep her, we're risking like her escaping and then more spree stuff happening. And then she says she forfeited her rights when she became an agent for the end.
In caps.
In capitals, exactly. And so I did a little digging into this about what the end means. And we're going to get into this when we talk about like our Series 3 speculations. But just to tip people off, if you're not familiar with the Norse myth of Ragnarok, go look into that. But we'll circle back later because there's like Series 2 spoilers in there. But anyway, I think this end thing is very important. And the fact that Alder keeps bringing it up, I think is important. Because she's the only one that uses this terminology. But anyway. So she's like, the spree, or the big bad, essentially, in Alder's mind, is what this is. And if I let one of them go, their army gets bigger, and then we're fucked. But, again, Mama Costia is like, hey, she could be our eyes. She could be useful. And Alder says, not with a will like hers, because Scylla has way too much big witch energy, as Alder saw when Alder tried to break Scylla and it didn't work. So she's like, you're not going to break this person. Stop trying. Like, we need the Tarim. Like, that's where Alder's head's really at. She's like, fuck it, we need the Tarim. Like, stop this. And she kind of gets mad at Anacostia for, like, still pushing this whole thing. So you kind of see, like, their unbreakable dynamic is starting to, like, fray a little bit here. Because they're having this kind of disagreement. But ultimately, Anacostia's like...
cracks in the edifice of their relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it started with City Drop, but I think it really... they say in the Afterstorm it started with City Drop. That's the big thing that breaks them. But I think it really started cracking with the whole Scylla thing. Because, you only like her because she's an orphan. And like all this stuff where Mama Cassie's like, wait. Yeah, so I think that's kind of why this dialogue is in here.
Well, Alder's completely dismissing all of her viewpoints on this and basically calling her weak.
Yes, which is wild to Anacostia, and wild because Alder's big confidant is Anacostia. So Alder is at the point where you see that she is isolating her viewpoints and herself and being dismissive of her one like true confidant. So again, that speaks volumes about the way Alder is getting so extreme with her own behavior that she's just dismissing her closest, like, trusted ally. And in doing so, creates kind of an quote-unquote enemy or distrust between the two of them. So, again, consequences of Alder's actions to, like, be extreme here. And so, ultimately, Alder dismisses this. She's like, hey, we're going to send her to a prison on St. Dominic, which I thought was interesting phrasing because that's the previous term for Haiti when it was under French colonization. So I was wondering, in this world, did the Haitian Revolution never happen?
Guess
what
not.
What the fuck happened? We never talk about human slavery in this world, so I'm wondering, like, what's going on in the world at large? So I just thought that terminology was interesting. And ultimately, Anacostia's like, all right, whatever, I'll let this go. And they kind of cheers over it.
Yeah. Little cheers at the end, and it was obviously uncomfortable.
Super uncomfortable. It's like when you hug people when you don't want to. That's what this was. But I wanted to comment really quickly on the fact that Alder always drinks alcohol. I think what they're kind of getting at with that too is like you hear the terminology like wine is the elixir of the gods, and I think that this whole drinking alcohol thing, and that's all we see Alder do, is kind of like another way to frame her as this like mythological figure.
Absolutely.
And so I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of that is while she's you see her in from so many characters' point of views, like Anacostia and Tally, that she's this like beacon of just everything good. I think it's important to see the cracks there too, because she's not a god. She's ultimately human too. And I think that's kind of part of what you're seeing with Alder. Alder's like fall from grace, quote unquote, which like she's being pulled back into her human side because she's been this mythological figure for like 300 years. Thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, how did you go that long without, you know, anyone question? Like, it seems like there's never been anything like this happen before with her.
Right. And I think that part of the issue is that over these past 300 years or whatever, she's never had a true equal. Like, Anacostia is a confidant, but it's like mother-daughter. There's an inherent power imbalance there. And so Alder has no equal. And because she's in the situation where there's just tension everywhere and like her ass is on the line, when she comes across equals like Kalita, who's actually kind of an equal to her,
yep,
she can't even hear them out because she's so defensive. So where that would normally probably be a good thing for Alder to like have somebody on her level she could talk to or like, you know, butt heads with in a healthy way, it's making her more extreme because she's being defensive and shutting everything out. So it's a culmination of a bunch of bad things happening, and Alder's just reacting to everything very defensively and in a singularly focused kind of way that's causing all these other issues she's just blinded to because she's so entrenched in like her personal mission at this point.
Yeesh. Does not bode well.
No.
But neither. Ugh. The next scene is just sadness.
It really is.
Once again, we get these overhead shots. It's really pretty, and then you get to the big, what's the word I'm looking for? Graveyard, with all the tombstones.
Yeah.
And then we go down to everyone gathering for the funeral.
Just real quick, I wanted to say the aerial shot of the white tombstones all in a row, that is a real thing that they do for American soldiers in the like the army graveyards or the armed forces graveyards.
Yeah, my dad's in one of those.
Yes, my grandfather was recently put in one of those. And when we come in, there's the flag at half mast. So like these are real things the American armed forces do for fallen soldiers.
Absolutely.
So.
And if you recall that flag that last episode the soldiers folded over Libba's casket, that is, as tradition dictates, given to Libba's mom or her next of kin, which Alder does the presenting at the beginning of all this. So she's got that folded flag on her lap. When everyone gets to their seats and settles down, you have Abigail, who starts on her approved speech, but you could tell it's really wooden and she's not into it, and she falters a little bit. We get a shot of Petra looking worried, like, "Da fuck? What's she going to do?"
It was so funny. She's like, "Abigail, what the fuck are you doing?
What are you doing?" And then Abigail says, "I can't do this." So she's taking a little page out of Tally's book there. I can't do this.
That's so funny.
So she starts speaking honestly about how Libba was the girl she hated most in the world.
I love that that's the next line.
I know, right?
She's like, "Oh, army stuff. I hated that bitch."
Yeah, what?
The pan in the crowd, you get like Raylla like face palming like Abigail. What the fuck? It's so funny. Go back and watch that. It's so funny.
It's so funny. But I mean, she's gonna put it all out there and be honest, because then she goes into the whole history of the Bellwethers versus the Swithes and how it's been hundreds of years of them hating each other, and basically she's saying how stupid it is.
Yeah, it's so true. Again, this is Abigail's growth.
Yeah. So she's pointing out all the stupidity involved with this petty rivalry that started over nothing, and is so much smaller than the reality of Libba just died and is no longer existing in the world.
Dang.
So she ends it with, Libba was the stone that sharpened my blade, the storm on my sunny day, and I'm grateful for it. So she's saying Libba helped her to be a better soldier and a better person by this rivalry. So, and we did see both Libba and Abigail softening towards each other in the last episode. That was very sad, but
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that line, "You were the stone that sharpened my blade." That's like brotherhood language. That I know from like personal experience from like my fraternity kind of days, but that's kind of that language where it's like, you pushed me to be better. So I love that. So it's like a hint at like, at the end of the day, they were sisters in this witch community, like despite all this stuff. So I love that particular phrasing. And then I thought this, "You were my storm on a sunny day," I thought was cute because Abigail's like the weather worker. So like she's the one that creates the storms, but that was cute.
If I'm not mistaken, though, I think Libba was a blaster too.
Was she? I never. Maybe she was.
Libba was a blaster too.
But it's cute.
It was super cute, and I almost went to like oh my god, you guys are the romantic frenemies type.
They are. That's what we've been pointing out.
That took me back to that because it was just like a weird greeting card thing. Yeah. I don't know, but so she ends with, "May the goddess bless you, and may the goddess bless this great country that you served." I have to say, every time I watch that scene, I get a little bit teary, and I'm mad about it because, like, stop making me like be on the verge of crying, Abigail. But also, good job, Ashley.
Yeah, it's very bittersweet though, because like her speech is very heartfelt and beautiful, but it's like, you're just mad because you're like, Libba didn't have to die.
Exactly. Basically, that's what her speech comes down to. And at the end, we see a shot of Libba's mom turning and looking back at Petra. They share a little moment, and Libba's mom nods. And now I'm done and dead. So
it's so cute. They ended that stupid rivalry nobody could remember.
Thank God.
I just have one last thing to say about this, like after the storm stuff. So there's a shot during, I think while Abigail's talking, where they cut to Mama Kostia. And Demetria basically says, because like she's looking at kind of Abigail looking at the crowd, and then she kind of looks away. And so during this whole speech and the funeral, there's like intense amount of grief that's happening in Mama Kostia, because she's really torn up about the fact that basically Libba was died when this could have been avoided, and the nonchalant attitude that's going towards us that's coming from Alder. And it really wasn't something that Anacostia was prepared for. Like this kind of loss. Like sure, soldiers die, but not like this. And so she's trying not to show it, but like Anacostia really feels this. And like this is what Demetria says is like kind of the first unraveling with Alder, is like this whole, the Libba situation is really something that's eating away at Mama Kostia, even though she's not showing it, and it's the breaking the bond with Alder.
It's just another little tidbit you get sprinkled in.
Yeah.
That is a piece of the whole.
Yeah, because like Mama Kostia is a character where she's very hard to read, and like Demetria does that on purpose. She's like Anacostia's like kind of an enigma, and so she plays her that way. So I thought that insight to her was important, because it's like a split second where you see it, and it's hard to read her, but she's basically internally beating herself up about this and is like really doubting Alder in this moment in the funeral. That's all I had. Did you have anything else on this one?
Not really.
Cool. So after the funeral, we go to unit bonding time with Glory and Adil, and they're all kind of like drinking and celebrating Abigail's eulogy that she gave that was really great, and saying they're all proud of her. And I assume that Drunk Tally and Drunk Glory are already at this party.
Oh my god, yes.
I think they came back and started pounding back whatever was in that mule cup. Yeah. And so then they say things I think are indicative of like their highest values, where Tally's like, they're talking about Abigail, and Tally's like, you're a natural born leader, I would follow you anywhere. And Glory follows it up with, you're a warrior queen. So they're saying like these things they put on a pedestal, and then Adil says, you are a priestess of ancient truth, which they all laugh at, and they're like, this is weird. But I think this is Tarim culture stuff, where priestess of ancient truth, I think that's like what Khalida is. And so he's saying, like, you guys are all valuing, like, leadership and fighting, but in our pacifist culture, we value, you know, upholding truths kind of thing. And so I thought that was really fascinating, because we're getting, like, Tarim culture stuff sprinkled in here. Yeah, exactly.
Like, are y'all just that drunk, or are you just taking the piss? I don't know. It's like, yeah, because Adil's not drunk.
No, he's not drunk, but yeah, he's trying to compliment Abigail to be like, you know, in the Tarim culture, this is the highest honor ever, and that's how I think of you, which is indicative of how he feels about Abigail. But everybody's like, boy, what you talk about, because they don't know this culture.
Boy, what you talking about? Like, you saying stuff we don't understand. And
like, Abigail obviously doesn't get it either, but she's just smitten and is very glad he's there. And so, yeah, and Adil is like, I'm glad I was there too at the thing. I really loved hearing the part about you making her eat a dead pigeon.
The dead pigeon. I need to know the circumstances of that.
For real.
Ashley, give us the tea. What was the background? How did she make Libba eat dead pigeon? Did she like hold her down? Did she just give it to her?
Right, because there's no way Libba was like eating that of her own fruit. Like eating anything. Abigail
was it a dare?
Right, maybe. Yeah, she's like, I'm not afraid of that dead pigeon, bedwetter or whatever. Yeah, I can see that. And then they talk a little bit, and Adil mentions, like, I wish I could have met Libba, because he never actually met her. He heard about the death.
This part.
And then the room gets really quiet. And Glory's like, well, you know, she was a little frosty. And Tally's like, well, you know, that was part of her charm. And Raylla is me, where she's like, I thought she was kind of cute.
Type emerging.
And Tally's like, uh-oh, type emerging, dark hair, trouble. Which Raylla does not deny, because that is 1000% her type. And I think a lot of people know this and put a pin in that. We'll get back to that later. But bask in that moment as much as you can of that lesbian Jesus has a type, because trouble comes in the form of a little blue parrot at Tally's window. Yeah. And it has a scroll, so that can only be one person. Because, fun fact, parrotlets are not from Maine, or Maryland. So I think that Garrett brings this fucking bird everywhere and sends it to Tally, because they're not native of this area, and he always has the same bird. And they all know what this is, everybody in the room. And Tally, like, grabs a scroll and starts, like, getting her boots on and her jacket or whatever. And Abigail's like, so how's the Garrett thing going now that he's married? And Tally's like, well, it's complicated. And before anybody can really judge her, she's like, look, I need this. I'm sorry, but not sorry. I gotta go. And so I find this whole thing very fascinating about Tally, because while Tally is struggling with the moral gray of City Drop, she's kind of not struggling with the morality of the Garrett is married thing, and is fully in the moral dark of this, and is knowingly participating in this affair because she needs the emotional comfort / distraction from all of this. So I find that fascinating that Tally's like, whatever, I'm not going to think about the morality of this because I need this. So interesting.
I think in her head, she's like, well, nobody's dying, so.
Right. But I'm not struggling with the lie and deceit on Hillary's end.
Exactly.
And Abigail warns her. She's like, she's pretty formidable. You better watch out. And Tally gives us a line of why this is okay. Because Hillary's deployed right now. And then she just fucks off to go see Garrett. And everybody's giggling like, well, okay, thirsty Tally, you're so bold and bad. So that's where Tally's at right now. She's bad and bold. And like Garrett gets the bad boldness because she goes and sees him and she's like trying to top him. And he's like, hey, like, let's not rush. Like, let's hold hands and talk.
I missed you.
And she's like, shut the fuck up. And she's like, this is a sex thing. I think this is her rationalization of why this is okay. This is sex. We're not
We're not emotionally involved. We're not going to do this.
Exactly. Make me forget.
This is not a relationship. This is me using you. So, in the fashion that Abigail uses men.
Yes. Tally has entered fuckboy land.
Yes, she has.
And this is just destructive coping behavior of the lies of City Drop. And she's like, I don't care that this is morally gray. It's less icky if we don't talk and we don't make this emotional. I'm just using you. Make me forget is what she says. And it's just like very heartbreaking because like that's not Tally. So Tally's being very un-Tally like. And personally, I wish I could forget this whole scene, but I had to recap it for you guys. And sorry, Bree, I had to recap it for you too.
Well, I watched it too, so it's not like I'm not aware. Ugh. Like her ripping his clothes, I could have like I was nope. Like if it had been somebody else, it wouldn't have. I don't know. I just have this block on Garrett.
I know. I wish she could be doing this with like, because all the male witches are there. Like, why not grab Augustine and Clive? They're. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the actor is very lovely, but.
Sure but I hate this. It's the worst. But whatever. Tally is coping by getting it on with Garrett, and it's gross.
It is what it is.
Well, let's go to a better scene.
I just will say that this is the only person Tally's ever been with, so it's not like I don't think she wants to start fresh with sexing up somebody because she's already comfortable with Garrett in that regard. So she's just thought that it's as much as she's not being Tally right now. I don't think she's not Tally enough to go to someone that she does trust on that level.
It's true. Intimately. This is easy. She needs to forget. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That makes sense.
I also think she's a bit of a person that doesn't get attracted to people easily, so she's not like just attracted to every single person around.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And also Garrett's easy. Like he's willing to do this with her. Like give her what she wants. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, we're going back to the dungeon. And this is the first time we get to see Scylla in this episode.
Finally, it's actually Scylla.
Oh, it's actually Scylla. But we got Anacostia in the dungeon looking very serious and contemplative. And Scylla's just just chitty chatty. So how come you have time to sit with me all day? And Anacostia says, because you're my priority, which is
yeah, go ahead.
Which is what we've seen her saying to Alder without saying it. So
yeah. And I find it very interesting that phrase, you're spending all your time with me, indicating that Anacostia keeps coming back to the dungeon to see Scylla and going behind Alder's back to do this. Because Alder's like, let it go, stop doing this. And so she's still doing it. And I think that speaks to like what happened after the link. I think that they did form this little bond, at least from Anacostia's point of view. And so it's like kind of tethering her to Scylla a little bit.
Scylla's still resistant to it, obviously, because of the position that she's in.
Totally.
But and she's got to have her defenses up, so she gets all sassy as Scylla does. As I love what you've done with the place. It's kind of medieval. And then she yells, "I confess, I am a witch." All of this does not amuse Mama Costia in the least, but it amuses Scylla.
Losing her mind, but as her sass.
But I do love that Scylla can read when she needs to be super serious and when she doesn't. Like, so there's that. Like, you can see that Scylla can read people, which obviously she read Raylla from second one. So
she's smart.
Yeah, she's a smart lady. And then, so Anacostia starts right in with, what is it like ending thousands of people? When I don't, like, Scylla doesn't want to talk about that. Like, that's not a place Scylla visits. Scylla doesn't visit the place where she killed thousands of people in her mind, I don't think. No. I think that she instead of actually answering the question, she deflects and goes straight to, well, all 601 witches were burned, at this, I forget the year, but in this
Germany massacre.
In Germany, a massacre of 601 witches. And, like, once again, Anacostia knows what she's doing. And she cuts her off by telling her that she's being sent to a prison in the Caribbean. And flippantly, Scylla answers, well, that sounds nice, though I tend to burn. Oh my God, the pun! I love it. I can't stand how much I love it. But then Scylla gets a little more serious, and you can see the fear in her face. She wants to know why she's still there if Anacostia has orders to send her to prison. So she's not dumb. She's not dumb to the aspect that Anacostia is doing this for a reason, and she can see that she's supposed to be elsewhere by now, and Anacostia is dragging it out.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me wonder if Isadora is just. I think Isadora is on Anacostia's side with this one.
Oh yeah.
So she's not going to tell Alder
No.
that Anacostia is still visiting her all the time because it's her favorite necro.
It's her favorite necro, I'm telling you.
Yeah. But Anacostia says that she wants to know how someone gets to be Scylla. So she's searching for the answers of how did Scylla get to the point where she killed thousands of people for this cause? And in a way, I think she's searching for the answers of how everyone gets to be the way they are, including Alder and herself. So she's looking for something in Scylla that I think is not only finding the humanity in Scylla, but finding the humanity in herself and Alder.
And I think the other thing too, I agree with all of that. The other piece is the foiling between them because again, they're both orphans that went down very different paths. So it's like, I think part of it is this fear in Anacostia where she's like, I could have been you, like if my circumstances were different. So like, how did you get here? So
if things were different, could I have done what you did?
Yeah, so I love that it's these two in this position.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They have too much in common.
They do.
For there not to be a connection of some sort.
Agreed.
But Scylla's not going to give up that information easily because A, I don't think she wants to talk about it, and B, she wants something. And that something is to see Raylla again. Basically, she wants to say goodbye to Raylla before she's sent away to prison, and to see if Raylla is still, with her, rather than, did she believe me or did she believe them? So, Marah.
Yeah, Scylla is trading her villain origin story for Raylla right now.
So she's like, I'll tell you all the horrible things that made me who I am if you let me see Raylla.
Yeah, because at this point she's facing her own execution, and I think what it's also showing is that, like, still even in this, she's like, okay, you're dragging this out. I only want one thing at this point.
And you want something from me.
Yeah,
so let's trade.
Depths of her feelings. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's one more reason that Anacostia can say with confidence to Ray, can see with confidence that Scylla really does love Raylla.
Yeah, I mean, she obviously felt it in the linking, but again, Scylla's showing that.
I mean, if you think about it, you can see that every second she's in this cell, what is she thinking about? She's thinking about her own mortality, and she's thinking about Raylla. Those are the two things. She's like, well, if I'm going to die, I need to see Raylla again.
Right. Just a couple things on this. So when Scylla's telling the Germany story, basically, because Mom Gasti is like, well, how could you even murder all these people? And Scylla's like, witches have been murdered all this whole time. And I think per Demetria, like, Scylla tells her truths in this whole scenario that strike a nerve with Anacostia because it's true. It's like, we're still being murdered. And Scylla says something, because the witch massacre thing occurred in like the 1600s or something. But then at the end, she starts telling this other story that Mama Costia cuts her off on. And she says, even last year, a witch was burned.
Yeah, so, can we go back to that?
Yeah, can we go back to that? Call back to Alder in the beginning, who's like, the burning's all been over. Did she not know that a witch was burned last year? Because Alder is super confident when she was like, burning witches is over. So does Alder know that last year a witch was burned? Because Scylla knows this. Or is she ignoring it?
I think that they covered it up. So as to not sow discontent. Like, Alder's all been about the image of everything being fine, except for the spree. Like, let's
Yeah.
Let's direct everything towards this. This is the goal. We're not going to pay attention to anything else. And if there is something, we'll cover it up.
Yeah. So I thought that line was so important because this is the spree saying, hey, somebody else is burning witches. And who historically has been burning witches? Non-witches.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much discontent happening now between humans and witches, and we're not seeing it because we're in Fort Salem, which is a witch-only place. So I love that line because burning times are not over. Witches are still being burned. So that's important. And the other piece from this conversation I think is interesting is when Anacostia is like, well, how do you get to be you? Scylla says lots of practice, which I think is true because, again, Anacostia saw in the link when Scylla was given her first balloon, she wasn't down with all the suffering she was going to cause. And I think what Scylla's saying is like, well, I had to practice compartmentalizing that because I've accepted the collateral damage the spree was going to do for the greater good of liberating witches. And is that not the city drop dilemma of we had to compartmentalize the killing of innocent civilians for the quote-unquote greater good of stopping all the spree bombs from going God knows where across the world. So again, it's showing Anacostia, hey, we're not so different, are we? So I love this whole conversation. It's phenomenal. And Scylla's truths really hit home with Anacostia, and that has a wonderful consequence going forward.
Absolutely. I love their whole dynamic.
Yeah, me too. It's beautiful.
Very much so. Yes. It's the only positive in this episode.
Correct. And Isadora stealing the...
And Isadora stealing, yes.
Isadora stealing the box. Yeah. Which, why was there only one Isadora scene? Made me mad. But whatever. So. Cool. So, from that really good dungeon scene, we move over to Wade versus Alder's Big Witch Energy Measuring Contest round 2. And it's just as good as you're thinking it's going to be. This time we're doing this measuring contest at the White House. So we've upgraded
out in front.
Just out in open. They're like, fuck it.
No one's going to assassinate the president. So.
No. Well, not with Alder there and her biddies in their red outfits.
Yeah.
So the biddies got all fancy for this. Love it. And Alder basically brought Wade out in the open to have this conversation about making the plea to go on a humanitarian effort to get the last 10 Tarim that exist out of the world. She's like, we gotta go do this. There's only 10 left at this point. Because really, Alder wants to save the witches. And
the
Elliot,
songs.
Yes, there's the power component with the songs, but Elliot also mentions, and it's kind of evident with Alder's headspace, because Alder, the Mother Witch, we keep talking about that. But the Tarim in particular are a tie to her past. And so she's presented with this opportunity she never thought she'd have to,
revisit
save the past. That's kind of what she's trying to do. Because really for Alder, if you think about it, her life was really ripped from her too. When she was about to be executed, her sister was killed. Her past was taken from her by the darkness and humanity. And so this is her last effort to save, the good of the witches kind of thing. So there's that component, but also she needs the power. And the power piece, so she starts with Wade going hey, it's humanitarian. And Wade's like, whatever. We're not starting a global war between China and Russia. And so then Alder pivots to, well, they have songs unlike anybody else in the world. That's why we're all obsessed with them. They're powerful. We can use them. So she plays on that part too with Wade. So Alder does have two different motives for doing this. But ultimately, Wade is like, fuck this. I'm forbidding your intervention. I'm the HBIC, not you. You work for me, remember? And at this, the biddies do a hiss, and Wade hisses back.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. That's her Big Witch energy.
Yes.
I love it. And she's like, I'm not fucking afraid of you. She's like, I'm in charge. I have the control here. You do not. And she's like, you have the nerve to lecture me about humanitarian bullshit when you just pulled all that bullshit during City Drop and put your own cadets out at risk and killed one of them. So how dare you lecture me, Alder? I think I know best here.
I think really what this is about is Wade has all the cards that she needs right now, and she's about to play them.
Yeah, because Alder ultimately needs Wade's permission as president to go off and grab the Tarim, because again, there's tension with China and Comrade Boris over the Tarim and where they're located. But but Wade is over Alder at this point. She's like, we're not doing this. I'm in charge. Like, there is no struggle here. I'm telling you, we're not doing this. And Alder tries to kind of salvage this and spout the propaganda of like, well, you know, we stopped this huge thing with the spree. We took out their giant ammunition. Like, that was a win. You wanted me to get a win. I got a win for you. And Wade's like, and Alder basically says, well, I made a tough choice that day when those civilian dies. And Wade's like, you know, I make tough choices too. I'm the fucking president. But the next one, Sarah, you made super easy for me, because I just heard from my spies that you have spree agents running around in Fort Salem, and we're totally cool with that. And you let it happen on your watch. And this blindsides Alder, because she's like, fuck.
Where did you get this information?
Where did you get this information? And again, this is Petra making her coup move, because remember, Petra has political friends too, and Alder forgot about that. Call back to Petra at the wedding. And that's what she's doing here, and she already did it. She went to Wade. And Alder tries to salvage it. She's like, you know, we have her. She's not running around. The operative is contained. And Wade spouts more tea. She's like, yeah, that's how you got the Baylord auto intel. I get that. But, like, your days of leading our military are over. Like, because you, Sarah Alder, kept me in the dark. And I think this is, like, the thing Petra was upset about, too. She's like, I'm not upset you had a spree agent, collected her, and stopped this thing. I'm pissed that you told literally nobody, including Petra and including the fucking president, who you're supposed to tell me things like this. If this is our big enemy, you're supposed to tell me when you capture the enemy. So, again, Alder is not seeing the consequences of keeping everything to herself, and this is the ultimate consequence. Wade's like, you don't trust me, Alder, I don't trust you. So your days of leading our military are over. And Alder just, you see like fear flash across her face, and then it just morphs into anger. And she just strikes back and says, my favorite line, you are the 45th president I have served. Pause. Elliot, I love Wade even more now with the knowledge that she was the 45th president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I want this for
Yes.
Earth. I want
Can we
this
have this in our world?
Can we have this? Can we go back and change this and put Wade in charge?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Elliot. Love that. And then Wade is like, well, Sarah, there's no American out there who deserves retirement more than you
I
do.
love it.
And I know Wade is trying to be sassy and like pull her power here, but she has a point. Like,
Yep.
Alder has been doing this nonstop since the Salem Accord. Like, she does deserve a break from all this. She's just been in fight survival mode for 300 years. Like, that's a lot to put on one person, you know?
Go chill on a beach somewhere, Alder.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Alder literally had her entire life taken from her with this whole Salem Accord stuff too. So Wade does kind of have a point, but she's doing it as a power move. And she's like, you know what, Alder, you did great, girl. You're a hero, etc. I'm announcing the changeover tonight. And Alder is just like, thanks, President. And she ultimate super angry mic drops out of there with angry biddies and summons a fucking storm over the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And there's thunder crackling as she witch mic drops away. And yeah, Alder is not pleased, to say the
Everyone's
least.
always summoning storms over friggin' President Wade.
Wade should just walk around with a raincoat.
Yeah,
When she
much
meets
an
the witches, she
umbrella.
should be like, yeah, I got my raincoat on. All right, what did you want to talk to me about?
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
But
that
yeah.
whole scene was like, as much as you had that, there's the big witch energy off with Kalita and Alder.
Dude, Wade,
just
Wade.
like, she doesn't have the witch part of that,
no.
but she stepped
But,
up to
oh
the
God.
plate and slammed one out.
Yeah, she
Because
won the Big Witch Energy Measuring Contest.
She had all of the cards, she had all of the ammunition, and she blindsided the hell out of Alder.
Yeah, she executed that shit to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
She just let Alder talk, and then she's like, death blow.
Mm-hmm.
And Alder did not see it coming.
No, not at all.
No, because she's blinded by her own ambition at this point, or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't understand why she left that she just assumed that Raylla and Tally and Abigail and everyone else that was there was just not gonna say a damn thing.
Again, I think Alder's just so lost in her own world. She doesn't see the other people. She just sees Alder, what Alder's doing. Everyone else is an extension of Alder doing Alder's bidding, and there's the spree, and Wade is in the way. Oh, there's the spree and the Tareem, and the Wade is in the way of her getting the Tareem, which will let her get the spree, and that's all she sees. She just sees those three things, and everybody's her minion, but she's not seeing people as humans with their own thoughts and their own motives. And
she's playing Biddy Risk without the humanity involved.
She's playing, some game against herself, and she's not seeing the other players as their own players. Like, that's the issue. And Wade's just having none of it.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna go to another sad scene with Anacostia and Raylla, because Raylla's sitting under.
No, not yet. She's
not
walking
yet.
in a
That's
field.
why I was just like, oh, wait a minute.
We're not
So
there yet.
they're walking up with she's walking up with the other two, and with the other two, she's walking up with Tally and Abigail.
Yes.
And Anacostia calls her over, and she tells Raylla that Scylla's being moved to a prison, and that she asked to see her one more time, and she thinks that it will help both Scylla and Raylla to say goodbye. But Raylla is not about it because Scylla's dead to her, which is a damn lie.
But yes, I also love that line because Anacostia lets her own stuff slip out here. She's like, I think it'll help Scylla.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'll.
Which
help
Raylla catches that, and she's like,
excuse me, why are you worried about that?
Right, you've been on the I hate Scylla for no reason train this whole time. Why do you suddenly want to help her? And Anacostia doesn't really answer that. She's
no. She can't be like, well, because the whole time I saw stuff about Scylla and myself, and I didn't want to address that.
Yeah, so she really, I think that's her dry snitching on her own self. Because I really think they bonded, and she does really want to help her. Yeah.
I think the whole hate Scylla thing may have had something to do with her feeling that they had, because she knew about the parents, and she looked up stuff about Scylla, so she could see the similarities.
Mama Costi is a good spy.
Yeah, she is the only good spy in the show.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I think there was the it was that thing where you're too similar to somebody,
exactly. So you're gonna
just butt heads kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but yeah, Rail's not about it, and she goes back to the barracks where the other two are waiting, and they want to know what Mama Costia wanted. And she's like, what do you think? And Tally was like, it's about Scylla. And she's like, good guess.
Yeah, she's back in sad Scylla land.
She's sad Scylla sassy Rael right now. And she tells them that Anacostia said that she could see Scylla one more time and that she's going to prison. And Abigail pipes up with, hi, you should do this because forever is a long time. And if I could talk to Charvel one more time, you better believe that I would. So...
And Libba.
And Libba. So think about what you're saying no to is Abigail's advice. And I think that gets through to Rael, because you can kind of see it just like, oh, okay. But she has a damn good point. Like, you don't want to let that go just because you're so angry and betrayed.
Yeah, and so this is a big conflict for Rael, because when Rael first went through all the stuff with Scylla, when she didn't know the betrayal was happening, it completely broke Rael. Like, Rael hit the most the ultimate rock bottom. And then she had to, heal from that. Then she learns about the betraying part and the lying from Scylla. And that broke her all over again. So she's, constantly in this fluctuation of just, breaking and healing when it comes to Scylla. And so I think she's just, again...
done with it.
She's done. She's like, I'm tired of being broken by this. What the hell is the point? She's gonna get what she deserves or whatever in Rael's mind. Whatever. I can't keep putting myself through this. But to your point, Abigail does have a point. She's like, love her or hate her. Because I think that's why it's Charvel and Libba. Love her or hate her. If I had one chance to say something to them before they were gone forever, I would have taken it, because life short. And like, again, this is Abigail getting her wisdom, like her name describes, and saying, hey, like, forever's a long time. You may be pissed off now, but like, you're gonna heal and get past that at some point, and like, this is your last shot. So
don't regret, just do it.
Right. It's like weighing the possibility of getting broken, which is the risk, versus like the benefit of like saying goodbye, like getting closure, saying what you need to say to get past your anger or whatever kind of thing.
Say what you need to say.
Exactly. So it's a shitty position for Raylla, but Ellie loves torturing Raylla, so our reason.
Yes, so we're right back in the torture Raylla mode.
Yeah, she was happy for like the first half of this episode, and then here we are. It never lasts.
Yep.
Anyway, so from there we go to another mama-daughter bellwether chat where Petra is making her comments about the Libba eulogy. And she's like,
wait.
That...
Hold on. I want to put in...
Yeah. Right. Sorry. Go.
I have to put in my what was this character doing off-screen thing right here, because in my head, Petra's secretary has brought her this collection of samples of stationery with General of the Army and all of that, and she's picking which one she wants for her desks and her correspondence. So she's picking her business cards, she's picking her stationery, and she's getting all suited up to be the General of the Army. So she's just kind of like, okay, she even like has a perusal of the new rank that she's going to be putting on her uniform, and kind of pets it and covets it a little bit. But really the main thing is she has to have the best stationery to send all of her missives out on.
It's like the thing where you get the promotion in the office job and you're like, okay, you get to pick your new chair, and you're going through the catalog of stuff.
Exactly. She's also thinking about how she's going to redecorate the office.
Oh yeah, that painting of all
the painting is coming down.
Yeah, they're making arrangements for the Petra portrait.
Yep, and all of the books are going. God. She's going to put Bellwether history in its place.
Biddy Risk is going in the fire.
Biddy Risk is in the fireplace.
Oh my
that
God.
Table's going away, and she's gonna have her own wet bar. So she'll drink as much damn whiskey as she wants, and Alder won't be able to take it away from her.
I fucking love that. Okay, I love that you did something with Petra's assistant, because I have an Isadora bonus segment with the assistant. Because as they're talking, the assistant comes in and pours tea. And it's the exact same tea set from Isadora's office. So this underling also had to go off screen and get the one tea set, because you know how they share the witch garden spritzer?
Yeah.
They also share the tea set, so she had to go to the Necro Lab to get the tea set.
Wowzers.
So she had to interact with Isadora to get that.
Look at all that.
So this assistant was so busy.
This is like the busiest person on the whole base.
Yeah.
Freaking running around doing little things for all these people.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, so that's what Petra was doing before this scene.
I will take a Petra off-screen moment anytime. I've realized by doing this podcast, I legit have a thing for Petra. So.
We have all realized that, Theora. That you have got your thing for the...
I do. I love her.
You and Sarah and your MILFs.
Women only get better as they age. I don't understand the myth that they do not, but they do. So just look at Petra. Come on.
Like fine wine.
She sure is. So she's talking like to Abigail, being like, that eulogy was unconventional. There are other words I'm sure she wanted to use, but she's like, you know what? It was effective and moving and whatever. And me and Libba's mom even got past our stupid rivalry. So like, way to suck up to Libba's mom. Abigail getting in with the in-laws, what a waste. But anyway, so Abigail's like, that's great, thanks for the compliments, but like, why did you bring me here? And Petra's at first is like, well, how dare you, daughter of mine, I just wanted to say hi. And Abigail's like, yeah, you never want to do that, seriously, why am I here? So she's like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna low-key brag that there's basically big changes happening in the army, and yours truly is going to be involved with this promotion or whatever.
It's not even a humble brag. It's just
No.
a brag.
No. This is bellwether stuff. And she's like, this shift is going to change everything for me and by extension you, because it's always about the bellwether line. And Abigail is like, well, this sounds great. Tell me what's happening. And Petra's like, even though I just spilled all this tea on top of you, like, it's too soon for actual specifics. Just be on your best behavior for the sake of the bellwethers. Which Abigail is like, I'm always doing that. How is this any different? But it is, because this is the bellwethers rising to the rank of the alders, which has never happened before ever. So really it is a big thing. And Petra's like, well, I can't tell you, but just pay very close attention to President Wade's speech tonight. And it just ends with Abigail looking all giddy, like, that's huge if this is whatever the specifics are coming from the president. So I think Abigail's kind of putting together the big heavy-handed hints her moms are dropping in this conversation.
Yep.
So yeah, this is a big thing for the bellwethers.
I love that she can't contain her excitement about the coup. That she has to bring Abigail in and be like, guess what?
Right. She literally brought her daughter into the office to humble brag about what just happened. Because there was no point in her doing this. Because she's like, yeah, be on your best behavior. And Abigail's like, I always am. Like Abigail was going to do something stupid in the next hour. This was just bragging. So whatever. Yeah. Mama's flexing because she can.
Petra doesn't have anybody else that she can talk to about it, really. So she's like, because Isadora doesn't want to hear it. She's off, like, doing her experiments and whatnot, and with the vocal cord shit, and
Isadora's like, I'm waiting for my tea setback.
So she just drags her daughter in as a captive audience. Yeah,
no, seriously. I'm like, why couldn't Petra call her sister Edith? And did she already get off the phone? Or not the phone? What do they communicate with? They did far speech and they were
No, they do use the phone, though. Like, I feel like...
Oh, yeah, I guess they do.
Because somebody in this episode says you couldn't pick up the phone to Garrett.
Yeah, because Garrett's stupid bird messages.
I think that she can't tell anyone outside of the people that already know.
Except Abigail. Well, yeah, I guess Abigail...
No, Abigail is more in the know.
Is now into this, yeah. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, so...
Because she's the one that came and told her all this shit. Like, correct. She and the other two.
Like, this was all
I keep referring to the other people in the unit that aren't
the unit.
I'm like, listen, Linda, in my head, whatever.
Tally and
Raylla, whatever. I'm tired. That's all I can say. But yeah,
that was just a bragging scene because they can't contain it.
I can't help it. It was kind of cute.
It was cute because they're bonding and in their own way.
Yeah.
Because, like, really, she didn't have to tell Abigail that.
I mean, she got her first hug this episode, so...
Exactly. And so it's like, hey, daughter of mine, I got good news. Let me share it with you.
Let me share the good bellwether news.
Yeah, so, cute scene. But, unfortunately, we leave that scene and go to Tally, the third wheel. Ugh, it rudely, rudely cuts to Terry.
Terry.
We
are having problems. We're having problems this episode.
Tally.
It's holiday hangover.
It is. Just whatever. Tally
also, both of our works are crazy right now.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about work, but yeah, it's unfortunate right now. But anyway, Tally and Garrett are getting it on, and Hillary comes back from deployment because,
That's a short deployment.
Yeah, right. She was deployed less than 24 hours, but whatever. So Tally is now confronted with the morality of what she's doing because Hillary is physically here. And Tally's like, I better leave. And Hillary just cuts her off and she's like, listen, I've been on a plane for 16 hours. Just give me 10 minutes in the shower and I'll come join you. Let's raise some power, guys. And she leaves. And Tally is like, what the fuck? Now I'm in a love triangle I didn't want to be in. I was compartmentalizing this because she was gone and now I can't do that. And so she tries to leave because she's like, now I can't deal with the actual moral gray of this. And Garrett's like, wait. Why are you leaving? Like, Hillary knew about us. Like, I struck a deal with her because I'm married, Tally, remember? So this is the compromise. And Tally's like, but you've been keeping secrets from me. Like, because keeping secrets doesn't sit well with Tally. And he's like, but, I was trying to make it work. She knew about us already. And Tally points out, again, the issue with Garrett always is like, you could have told me this, but you didn't. You kept a secret, and I can't with the secrets. And Garrett's rationalization was like, well, you were so thirsty. You had this unquenchable thirst. And I thought you'd be into this surprise sex game with Hillary. And Tally's like, what the actual fuck? Like, clearly, you don't even know me. Like, do you? And I think that was the comfort thing with Garrett, where he's like, he already kind of knows her. They have a history, and that made this easy. But, like, clearly Garrett doesn't know anything about Tally.
No, he doesn't.
He's still keeping secrets. But to be fair, Tally wasn't communicating her issues with him either. She was using him, so it's just like it all blows up. And she's like, fuck this. And she leaves, thank God.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Because...
Listen, and I really think that Hillary's been planning this since they got married.
Yeah, no, Garrett lets it drop. She's like, hey, Hillary was into the whole threesome thing, and so...
Yeah, I think Hillary's
problem... She wanted to catch us.
She wanted to, yeah, like, that was her turn on right there, was she wanted to catch them.
Let's raise some power. She's into Tally, is what it is.
Like, so, did you really just say that, Hillary?
Yeah. I was like, what? Yeah,
is that what they say? Hey, let's go raise some power.
Yeah. Gross.
What a line.
Oh my God.
I don't know, but... Okay, so we're going to go from the non-cute hetero scene...
Clusterfuck scene, yeah.
...to the cute heteros.
Yes.
With Abigail and Adil. So, they're hanging out, and Abigail asks about Khalida, and he tells her about the other attack on the Tarim and the harvesting of their vocal cords, which is, yes, super creepy and comes as a surprise. So,
and Charvel triggering.
Yeah, Charvel triggering. So he lets out that, or he confides in her that Khalida is refusing Alder's help, and Abigail says she's a wise girl. Because
she sure is.
Abigail's on the I don't trust Alder train either right now. And basically, she says, like, why don't you wait before you accept her help? Like, play it out, basically, is what she's saying. And he says, we can't wait. Like, there's no time. And she decides that she's going to let him in on the fact that leadership is changing, but she can't say anymore. Just trust me and wait a little bit longer. So he does trust her, and they kiss. It's super cute. But basically, she's saying, hey, my mom's about to be in charge, and when she's in charge, we're going to figure this out, and we'll get your people. We're gonna have their backs. So she's saying, trust me, and through me, trust my mom, and that things are going to change.
Yeah, because really, at the end of the day, they share the whole family's being targeted thing. And I think Abigail's like, well, my mom's going to understand this.
Yeah.
Because she was all hell-bent and upset over the bellwether targeting. So, yeah. I agree with that. But, it's very sad for Adil, because they let it drop in this episode. There's 10 members of their family left.
10 members left. 10. That's it.
I mean, I guess that doesn't include him and Khalida. I think the 10 are just the ones.
The 10 are just the one. Yeah, those are the ones that are out in the world.
Yeah, so there's a dozen of them. Yeah, exactly. So he's really worried, because he expressed in other episodes that, like, it's not the wars, it's really like the loss of, like, our elders, and like their way of life is being, like, snuffed out,
eradicated.
So it's scary.
It's the eradication of an entire culture.
Correct. This is a genocide on many levels. And so it's scary, and to be far away from that and almost helpless and at the mercy of just, like, these people that they're the antithesis of everything you've been, bred up to believe is evil. It's a hard position for Adil to be in. And so the trust with Abigail, I think, is a big thing to help him, and I think will help him going forward just in general. But it's very sad.
It is very sad, but as sad as this is, I need to ask a question.
Yeah.
Can we just stay in this scene and not go to the next one?
Oh my God. We are going to be in the next scene for at least 10, 15 minutes, probably 20, because there's no way to shorten this.
Why do you hate me?
We have to. We're going to relive this scene.
No!
We have to.
It hurts.
It's important. It's a very important scene.
It's very important, but it hurts.
I know. I'm the one that have to recap it.
I was so happy when I saw that in the note. I was like, yes, I didn't get that one.
I know. You got the Mama Costia scene, which is really fun.
Yes, I'm so sorry that you got it, but happy that I didn't.
It's okay, but we're going to be here for a while because my recaps are not brief. All right, guys, here we are.
Here we are, and I, like Scylla rubbing her head, I'm doing the same thing.
Yes. So we're in blue light, back in the dungeon. And Scylla is just on her bullshit as Anacostia comes into the room. She asks, any news on my Caribbean vacation?
Oh my god, so sass.
Because even though she's losing her shit and it's all over, she still has her sass, and that's why we love her.
She's laughing so she doesn't cry.
Yeah, no, basically, yeah. She's losing her grip on reality, I think, right now.
Mm-hmm. She's been locked in that dungeon for how long?
Thank you. Who knows how long she's been in that horrific room. So, understandable.
On that chair, like her butt must be sore.
I'm worried the woman has, like, sacral ulcers and, like, all kinds of stuff.
Did she go to the bathroom?
I hope so. Whatever. So, yeah, understandably, Scylla is losing it because of the torture. And just, like, she lost everything. And, you know, the end, capitalized, is getting real for her. And it's not helping that when Anacostia comes in the room, she literally doesn't answer her. She just gives her this plate. And then Scylla gets scared and says, well, am I gonna get executed?
She's shaking.
Yeah, she's legitimately scared. This is the end of the road. She really has nothing to barter with anymore. She's only alive as long as Anacostia finds her useful. That's potentially her only ally at this point. And yeah, I think it's all getting to her. And so her emotions really kind of come out here. And Anacostia, I think, kind of gets that. She's like, hey, like, calm down. And then she just leaves and walks out of the door into the glaring spotlight and stops. And then we see Raylla come into the room. So here's Raylla. She took her unit's advice against her own initial instinct and is here for her last conversation with Scylla. And Scylla sees Raylla, and the fear goes away, and she just looks hopeful, and she just ditches whatever the plate was that Mama Costia gave her, and their music starts playing. And as the door closes behind Raylla. And Scylla looks, again, hopeful and happy for like a second, because here's Raylla. She finally can see her. This is the thing she wanted. Mama Costia kept her up her end of the bargain. But Raylla's just standing there in zombie mode. Almost like she's looking at a complete stranger. And Scylla registers this and knows why. And says, you believed everything they said about me. And it's not a question. It's a statement. Like, Scylla can see it on Raylla's face.
And also Raylla's just completely closed off. And Scylla knows that if she's closed off, if Raylla is closed off, that's it.
Yeah, Raylla hard on her sleeve. Parallel back the last time they were in the dungeon when Raylla saw Scylla, she just ran up to her and started like touching her and saying all these like things like, are you okay? And Raylla's not doing any of that. Raylla's just standing by the door, not moving, not saying anything. So yeah, something's off, and Scylla knows why. And then Raylla starts delivering all the devastating blows to Scylla, because Raylla, I think, really here wants closure and just wants to get out all the shit that's weighing on her to the person that needs to hear it, to the person that caused her the pain.
And then move on.
She says, I loved you. Past tense. And her delivery is very, like, broken when she says it, because here's Raylla getting broken all over again, which is what she didn't want, but she took the advice of having the last conversation for closure. And this line is just completely devastating to Scylla, because she hears the devastation in Raylla's voice. She sees the pain on Raylla's face, and this hurts Scylla because, anyway, this obviously hurts Scylla. So she just like swallows down her own emotions here and gets it together, because again, their time is limited. This is their last conversation. She's gonna die after this. This is her last chance to, again, say all the things she wants to say to the one person she wants to hear it. And so she very firmly says, well, I still love you. But for Raylla, I feel like that's like salt in the wound because she's in this point where she doesn't know what's real and what is, what's real and what wasn't real. She was very much in denial in Fantasyland about all her memories with Scylla, but now other people are shedding light on the things that she was doubtful about, that Scylla was not really telling her. And so she's very much just seeing all the bad because Raylla was trying to move on from all this. And in her mind, she's like, Scylla, you're telling me you love me, but you did all these things and all these actions to me that people don't do when they love each other. So her trust in Scylla is just very broken. And she throws it back on Scylla and says, well, I know about Helen. Because again, you don't glamour yourself and like come talk to me and be like, hey, give Scylla a chance. She's not so bad. If you truly love me, you wouldn't do that stuff. You wouldn't use free magic to fool me. And so Raylla, I think, is throwing it in Scylla's face that like love involves trust. And like, I don't trust you. You coerced me into trusting you by doing this stuff. And by doing that, you jeopardized actual trust between us. I think Scylla kind of gets that. Because again, she was in this horrible position of like playing double agent with Raylla. And she looks really hurt and scared when Raylla says this. And she doesn't really get a chance to answer. She just kind of sits with this. And Raylla asks her, well, have you ever done that to me before? That whole glamoring shit. And Scylla automatically cries out, no, never. Like, because again, she's trying to inject as much truth as possible into this conversation and say what she needs to say. And she finally lets it out. She's like, listen, I messed up. There's no excuse for what I did. And she just trails off and gets really scared and broken and tells her, I was scared. That's why I did it. And Raylla, again, is in reality land where she's like, scared of what? Losing your mark? Because I was a mission to you. I was your target. That's what you were afraid of. Like, this had nothing to do with me. This was all about the spree. And Scylla, again, swallows. And, like, she's very honest. And she says, yeah, that's why I was there. That's what the beginning was. Like, you were my target. I was trying to keep my target. But then it all changed because you were you. And honestly, that sentence, like, you were you, is like the perfect way to tell somebody you love them, honestly. Because it's like it was just, you were just being you, and I couldn't ignore that. And that changed everything for me. And for Scylla, she's like, I fell for you because of who you are, not because of the mission, not because of the circumstances, not because I was afraid of what the spree was going to do to me. It was all you. Like, you changed everything for me. And I promise you, like, I'm telling the truth. And she is. And this is her Hail Mary. Like, she's like, please believe me now that I finally have this opportunity to tell you the truth, because the spree ain't coming for me. I've been here for who knows how long. Like, they're not coming for me. Like, I just need you to know these things. But Raylla is just very stoic. She's not moving. She's by the door, holding everything back. And again, it's so opposite from their last dungeon scene where Raylla was just gushing, like, I believe you, like, it's you and me against the world kind of thing. Like, Raylla is in a different place now where she has the unit as her go-to, and she's seen the bad sides of Scylla, and her trust is just broken with Scylla. And she expresses that by saying, like, was any of this real? And it was just the way Taylor delivers it, it's this whisper. Like, Raylla's back in the fantasy of where Scylla was telling her, like, we'll run away together. It's you and me. But now, again, she's in reality Raylla, where she's like, what the fuck was even real? Like, I don't even know what was real. And I think that's really the big conflict with Raylla. Like, she's trying to suss out, like, do I cling to these good feelings and the love that we had, or was that all trash? Was that just a manipulation? Like, again, your actions are not something that somebody who loves me would do. And you're here telling me, like, no, I really loved you. So, like, what the hell was even real? Like, I don't know what was real. And Scylla just looks really hurt and stunned by that, because I think Scylla never wanted it really to come to this as as Raylla was Raylla, and she fell for her, and this kind of became real to Scylla. She never wanted this, because in the end, I think Scylla was just in the mutual fantasy as much as Raylla was. And so she tells her, well, all of it was real. And so all of it includes the deception. Like, it was all real. Like, it was a mission, and then I was being me with you. Like, it was all real. Like, nothing was really fake. It's just I couldn't tell you any of this until literally now, when I'm about to die. And she tells her, like, the reality of the situation is, like, I have nothing to gain, really, from telling you this. Like, they're gonna kill me. Like, I want closure with you as much as you want closure with me. That's really what this all is. And I think Raylla kind of gets that, and this is when she really starts fighting, like, the tears and, like, her own breakdown, because she's being broken by all of this all over again, because she regrets standing here. Here's all the pain coming back, the fantasies being shattered. And while Scylla's giving her these truths that, like, Raylla could have really used, like, weeks ago, like, it's so complex and just overwhelming and hurtful to Raylla. She's almost like, it would have been simpler for me to just think of you as dead and just not even be here. And so Raylla just, like, throws that scorn back on Scylla because Raylla's being broken by this and says, well, we all gotta go sometime, right? And as Raylla turns, Scylla full-on panics. Like, this is it. I'm never going to see her again, and this is how it ended. Like, the exact opposite of what I wanted. She's going to hate me, and I'm going to go to my grave with this. Like, wow, I really fucked up big time. But Raylla is in wild grief land and can't help but just be like, fuck it, I'm here. I'm just going to throw all my anger out at you. And her insecurity, I think, gets the better of her in this moment. And she's like, why the fuck did you even pick me? Like, that's the thing I think that Raylla has been really confused about. She's like, why me? Like, of all the people. Is it because my mom died? Put a pin in that. Or did you think I'd be a likely convert? Because again, we've talked about this since the pilot. Like, Raylla is somebody who really is right picking for the spree. She hates the army. She's not on board with any of this. She's expressed to Scylla multiple times, like, hey, let's just run away and fucking leave all this behind. So Raylla really is ideologically vulnerable for the spree. And I think that finally clicked at some point with her. But the pain that she's expressing is really starting to break Scylla now. And so Scylla at this starts full on crying. And she's like, hey, look at me. I'm in the cell. I've been here for God knows how long. Does it look like I'm in the head of the spree? Like I'm calling the shots? Like, obviously they didn't tell me anything. Like, again, the fact that nobody has come to get Scylla from the spree speaks volumes about her status in that organization. Mm-hmm. Like, she's nothing. She's just a minion. She's replaceable. And she's like, look at that. Obviously, like, nobody cares about me. So why would they tell me why they were after you? I was there to get you. That was it. And Raylla just cuts her off. And she's like, listen, I know why. You don't have to tell me. I was weak.
Zell.
I know. But Scylla sits with this for a second. Like, she really can't believe Raylla thinks this about herself. Because we saw it at the wedding, where Scylla was like, you know, your teacher says you're powerful. Like, obviously you're powerful. And I think she really flips the spotlight on the truth for Raylla, something Raylla can't see. And she's very much, like, holding her gaze and being very, very honest and, like, forceful about this. And she's like, you have absolutely no idea how powerful you are. And it's so sincere and said with such conviction. And I think it's because Scylla knows. Like, she knows the depths of Raylla's powers. But Raylla literally has no clue how powerful she is. And is that because Raylla is someone who doesn't understand how to control any of this? Is she just not seeking it? She just doesn't detect it? Whatever it is, Raylla can't, like, see the good in herself and the good of what she can do. But Scylla does. And I think it's meant to be this, like, build you up moment and, like, a pep talk. But Raylla is so pissed off and just upset, she just doesn't take it that way. And is like, how can you sit here and tell me I'm powerful? Like, I don't feel anything but powerful. I'm just broken and sad and at my rock bottom. And that's all because of you. And this is where Scylla absolutely loses it. Because, again, let's call back to their last dungeon scene, where she told Raylla in their limited time, I'd never do anything to hurt you, like, please believe me. And Raylla said, I believed you. And she sincerely trusted her in that moment. And here's all the confirmation that, like, even though you didn't intentionally mean to break Raylla, she did. And here's Scylla witnessing, like, the consequences of all of her actions and how that promise really was not something she could ever keep, because even in that last conversation, like, all the damage was already done. It's just Raylla didn't put the pieces together yet. And so I think Scylla's really feeling that reality of the fact that she's the one that hurt Raylla. Like, Raylla is hurt because of her, and it's a result of her own actions, like whether that was intentional or not. And so Raylla is just over it and delivers the final blow of saying, I'm sorry I ever met you. I'm over this. Like, I can't. And she just walks away to leave. And Scylla calls out in desperation the ultimate truth, the reason she's even in this situation, the reason they're in the dungeon, the reason they're having this conversation is because she chose Raylla. She chose Raylla over the spree. She had orders to deliver her, and she didn't. And I think this for Raylla is something she needed to hear, because that's what she told Tally when they were having this conversation in City Drop. Tally was like, hey, Scylla was spree. She was going to deliver you. Penelope Road at 6 o'clock. And Raylla was like, no, 6 o'clock we were dancing. That's when Scylla was telling me she loved me. We didn't go to Penelope Road. And Scylla is telling her why. She's like, yeah, I was supposed to take you to Penelope Road, but I didn't. I chose you instead of them. And that's why I'm here. That's how I got captured. And Raylla is still kind of sitting with this and not really moving, not really saying anything. And Scylla gives one last attempt, this really broken please. But Raylla is just beyond her breaking point at this point. And again, she's trapped in this cycle. Every time Scylla comes back into her life, she's just back in this cycle of just being broken and then healing and then broken. And she's like, I can't do this anymore. And she chooses to not say anything. She chooses to just walk away. She just labels Scylla as dead in her mind. Scylla's part of the past. She is a liar, a traitor, someone who said she loved me, then did actions that contradicted that. And I don't need this in my life. You're going on a one-way destination to your demise. I gotta go a different path. All of this is great, but it's a little too late for me. And Raylla just taps the door, opens it to Anacostia, who I guess was listening to this on the other end of the door this whole time. And Raylla's just like, thanks, bitch. That was terrible. Fuck you. And walks away, leaving Scylla absolutely devastated, violently sobbing. And
screaming.
Screaming.
You see that vein on her forehead popping.
Yeah. Scylla's broken. This broke Scylla. Hurting Raylla and just having Raylla be like, no.
Bye.
Bye. You're dead to me. You are dead to me.
I wish we never met. Bye-bye.
This is her rock bottom. And she just violently starts sobbing. And Anacostia sees this. Because I think this is really the confirmation to Anacostia, who knew there was genuine feelings there, but I think this is wow, okay.
Damn, this girl really is in it.
Yeah, she really did love her. This really wasn't a game to Scylla. And just, I think that sits with Anacostia, and Anacostia shuts the door and just leaves Scylla alone, broken, and devastated in that cell.
I am now broken and devastated.
Yeah. It's a heartbreaking scene, but it's so
good, though.
Good. It's so well done. Because, again, it's just the tragedy of just, a lot of this, the last couple of episodes are all focused on, the truth. The truth will save us. And I feel like that's this misconception fed to us by, whatever, Disney, fables, religion, whatever. The truth will save you. But really, timing matters. The truth could have saved Scylla before the Beltane wedding. The truth of all of this could have saved Scylla a long time ago. But here she is telling Raylla the truth when it's just too late. The timing mattered. And so it's really devastating, But there are little webs that will come out of this. She's telling the truth now when Anacostia is in a place to receive Scylla's truth and take that and run with it. And so it's just really unfortunate, the timing.
I think they're in one of those places where, like you were saying, Raylla is not in a position to receive the truth. She is in a position to grieve what she thought was real and try to figure out how to move on. And so I think they both need a little bit of time. And,
Yeah. But again, to harken back to the time, this was it. This was
Yeah.
like a now or never. And I think that's what made the conversation mostly explosive because, yeah, perhaps with time when Raylla was actually healed and was like, yeah, maybe, okay, I'll talk to her one last time. But she was initially, her instinct was like, no, this is going to break me all over again. I don't need this. This keeps happening. Like, whatever. She's dead to me. I've labeled her off, like, because I need to move on. But the truth of their situation was like, well, it's now or never. Like, you don't get to choose. Like, this is it. And so, because of that, Raylla was not in a position to receive this information. It's too little too late in her mind, and she's not in a good place. And Scylla is just also not in a good place because she's like, hey, I'm going to die. Like, I have to tell you everything now because I have no choice. And had she given her crumbs earlier in their first dungeon scene, would that have changed the outcome? Like, who knows? It's just the timing is so unfortunate that it just leads to this. There was really no other way for this conversation to go. It's just that was the headspaces they were in going into this, and it just really only could have ended one way. Like, there was nothing really Scylla could have said. She said everything to sway Raylla to her side because it's too little too late for Raylla, and she needs to process this. But there's no time to process it. It is what it is, and Raylla chooses to just walk away and say nothing, just she's back in her grief emotions. She's like, no, bye. I can't.
One of the themes of this show is you don't have time to process, move on to the next traumatic event. Yeah. And we're not going to give you any therapy.
Particularly Raylla, but yes, that is correct. But it's the harshness of the reality of the world they live in. It's just one thing after the other, really. And so that is where Scylla and Raylla leave things. Just both of them are heartbroken for kind of different reasons, and Mama Costia sees it.
The positive about recounting this whole scene is that my cat chose this time to come up here and lay down and be cute.
Your cat understands we need therapy after talking about that, so.
Exactly. Because I don't care how many times I see Amalia scream like that, it's still gonna punch me in the face.
No, her screaming hurts.
It hurts. Guys.
Like anything else. Like, I've never had that visceral reaction
Me
to
either.
Media before, but her being ridiculously overracked with grief just hurts.
I've seen a lot of things, and there are very few movies or television shows that could ever make me react emotionally in any kind of significant way. But these scenes, these dungeon scenes, they just made everything. First of all, I always get the chills, and secondly, I always just feel all of the pain.
Yeah,
that's Scylla's feeling, and Raylla.
Me too. Her performance is so uniquely moving that it's impossible not to feel what she's feeling.
Absolutely,
it's incredible. So, well done, ma'am. As always.
Good job. I think she's heard that a lot of times and gets it to an extent, but I wish that she could feel what the audience feels when those scenes happen, because it is intense.
Yeah, her performance is powerful.
Yup.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get right on into Alder being naughty. not in the good way.
No.
So we open this scene with President Wade getting ready for her address. Just the normal stuff, getting her makeup touched up and having her little mic tested and whatnot. And she keeps hearing this high-pitched tone, but nobody else can hear it. So I think she brushes it off as like audio feedback or something, and is like, well, I mean, whatever, we got to do this. We only got 9 seconds. But then once they start the countdown, we switch and we see that the high-pitched noise is the biddies singing a seed, gathered around Alder. And as soon as they get to the part where Wade's supposed to start speaking, Alder takes over her body and puppets her, changes the entire script to exactly what she wants to say, And then we cut back to the fort, and all of the cadets and Adil are gathered watching the address, including Anacostia, but she can immediately tell something's off about the speech because she's hearing familiar patterns and familiar words, and just the way things are put together strikes a memory. Oh, wait a minute. I know who this is. Let me just check and see if I'm right. So she leaves. And when basically there's this grand speech that's going on, and the president says the president / Alder says, there's only one woman to lead. And you see Abigail kind of smile and look at Tally, and Tally's kind of like, oh yeah, she's about to say it. Except the president says Alder's name, and everyone that's watching this and everyone that is in the president's office is confused. And it's like, excuse much? That is not what the script says. None of this has been in the script. What is going on? And then she grants Alder full authorization to employ military force at home and abroad, which is exactly what Alder wants. What she's always wanted is to have the freedom to do whatever she damn well pleases and thinks is right. So after the speech is over, Alder and the biddies...
Wait, one last thing about the speech. I think one other key piece of dialogue that really sets the stage for, like, everything else going forward is Alder as Wade, leading up to that announcement that it's Sarah Alder, says there is no middle ground. There is only one side now.
Yep.
And she's saying that in the context of, like, us versus the spree. But in the aftermath of all this, when Wade puts this together, another way to put that phrase is us versus them, humans versus witches. So I think the consequence of this is that for those who put this whole puppeting thing together, Alder almost is making a declaration that, like, it's us, like the witches, me meaning the witches, versus you humans. Is another way to take this. So it's very indicative of just this extreme behavior that Alder is succumbing to, and these actions are going to have these ramifications that put everybody against her, and the witches by extension.
Yes. And another, or should we say more evidence of Alder being in the black and white space.
Correct.
So the cadets are confused, and Adil looks at Abigail, and then he just leaves because he trusted what she said, and that didn't come to pass. Like, everything's even worse than it was before, because now, like, Alder's got all this power, and even though it's kind of what he was advocating for as far as them going in to get his people, it's still not the way that Abigail promised him it was going to go down. So he just biffs on out of there, and basically the big thing in this is Anacostia had snuck away, and during all this puppeting, she's peeking through the window, and she sees Alder puppeting the president. She knows exactly what's going on, and you cut back to her, and you see tears streaming down Anacostia's face. No point. That's not something you expect to see from Anacostia, so you know that not only is pretty much everyone else, almost everyone else broken in this episode, Anacostia's trust of her mother figure is now broken because she's committed an ultimate sin.
Yeah, and the irony of this too is that Elliot mentions in the After the Storm, and as is obvious, like, puppeting is forbidden by the Hague. Meaning this is off canon, like, no one's supposed to be doing this. And the reason it's a rule that you shouldn't be doing this is Alder. Like, Alder put these rules into place. So here's Anacostia witnessing Alder breaking her own laws that she created. So it's it's devastating on many levels because Anacostia is somebody who follows all the rules and follows the laws, and like here's her mother figure, the person who created these laws that she's been like living by, just willingly breaking them for her own means. So it's very devastating on like a personal, professional kind of level for Anacostia.
Oh yeah, she's the world is turning upside down for everyone.
Yeah,
and we're getting closer and closer to a crescendo of that.
Correct. Yeah.
So.
This ultimately changes everything between Anacostia and Alder, this scene.
Mm-hmm. I think it also changes it absolutely changes what Anacostia does in the next episode.
Correct.
And how she speaks to Raylla in the next scene.
Yeah, this sparks the next scene, exactly. So, yeah, keep in mind, Anacostia, kind of person that keeps her cards close to her chest. She's been privy to a lot of things that Alder is doing it, but now Anacostia's gonna make the decision to deviate from that and pull in other players closer to her. So that's what happens in the next scene. So we move on over to, I guess Anacostia is just like, I need some air, and goes outside. And she stumbles upon Raylla, who's in her Scylla field, so she's crying under a live oak.
I mean, that's what you do when you're crying, when you're having Scylla feels.
Right. She found a majestic live oak and just crumbled under the live oak.
It's their thing.
It's their thing. And when Mama Cassia spots her, instead of just like leaving Raylla alone, she decides to like actually apologize for torturing Raylla, which Elliot never does. So thank you, Mama Cassia. And she's like, look, I'm sorry I put you through that. I shouldn't have put you in that position. And Raylla admits, I wasn't even going to go. And she just starts crying. And Anacostia just kind of sits with her. Because, like, again, Anacostia is grappling with, like, the Alder puppeting. And just, like, now one of her cadets is really sad. And she was the cause of that. And this is coming off, like, Anacostia feeling responsible for, like, Libba's death. So there's a lot going. Mama Cassia's in her feels right now, which I don't think is a place Mama Cassia is normally in. And so she just kind of like sits down under the tree. And Raylla just like admits that she still loves her. Like that's part of Raylla's issue too. Like despite all the bullshit, despite all the spray stuff, despite all the lying, despite all the breaking, Raylla still loves Scylla at the end of the day, despite all of that. And Anacostia says, I know. And I have to note, in the frame, they're under this tree. And normally when we're under live oaks, there's gold light. But the light filtering through the leaves in the scene is green. So this is our first green light scene. And green, as a color, is a product of yellow and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And whose light is yellow and blue? Raylla and Scylla.
Uh-huh.
So what's happening here is that now we're at a position with Raylla and Scylla where the truth for both of them is just out. It's out there. They're both aware of it. And their dynamic has been shifted permanently from this point on. And yet, despite all of that, they both have admitted in the two scenes that happened with them, and now with Anacostia, is that they still love each other despite all this stuff that just went down. And I think that's what this light is. Like, that's the thing that's going to tether them together, whether they want it or not. Like, they're just bonded emotionally. They're entangled in each other's worlds forever, for better or worse. And it's almost like it's beyond their control. And it's beyond... And I think Raylla is feeling that loss of control. Like, I thought I could control the situation. I thought I could walk away. I thought I could put myself back together, but I can't because I'm ultimately still tethered to this person. And I'm still emotionally invested in this person, even though, like, right now I don't want to be because I want to feel, like, whole and not like this anymore. And so it's just one of those things that is just like everything else in this world where, like, they don't have control over, like, who they're tethered to in this kind of way, because we've talked about how Raylla and Scylla are just like connected on many levels and just like
faded in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Raylla right now is like, I don't want to be in this position. I want to feel whole and happy and normal and not broken, but they're emotionally entangled, you know, beyond their control. So she just feels stupid and expresses that to Mama Castia. Mama Castia is like, no, like, you're human. And then Mama Cassia is the ultimate 180 and says, she loves you, that part's real. So Mama Castia, what a big pivot from, she was just telling what you want to hear, Rail. So, love that.
Finally.
Yeah, because I think at this point, Anacostia is tethered to Scylla, whether she wants to be or not, and has seen Scylla be honest. And that last moment in the dungeon where Scylla was just sobbing, like, I think Mama Castia's like, wow, okay, this is real. So she tells Raylla that, not what Raylla wants to hear, but she's being truthful with Raylla. So they're not playing games right now. This isn't drill sergeant and cadet. This is them being human with each other. So I think that's a significant scene, too, for them, because I think this is going to bond them on a human level, Anacostia and Raylla, because before it's the power dynamic between the two of them, Raylla rebelling against the power, against the system, all that stuff. But now I think they're bonding on a human level. So I think that's important for them going forward.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Raylla kind of feels that. She's like, okay, I can trust Mama Castia. And she spills the tea about her spilling tea to Petra about Scylla and being in the dungeon and all the stuff she told her. And Mama Castia's like, what? You're the one who spilled the tea? And then she's like, fuck, that's how this got to Wade. And then Raylla says what we're all thinking. Do you think Alder knows? And they're like, fuck. Okay. She's like, Petra told the president, that's led to the puppeting. We have to find your unit. Like, danger, danger, danger. So they march to Cersei. And the rest of the unit is there, Tally and Abigail. And basically, Mama Castia just, like, releases her truth to them. She's like, I saw her puppeting the president. Alder's being extreme. Whatever the hell you guys told Petra set off something pretty cataclysmic. Alder's being reckless. I think you're in danger, like, if she ever figures this shit out. And so it kind of leaves them in this uneasy situation with, like, Tally expresses, like, well, is Alder going to trace this back to us? And so I think Anacostia is seeing, like, the extremeness in Alder, and she's like, even you aren't safe, like, you cadets. She's going to see this as betrayal. She's going to go on the defensive, like, you guys are in danger. And just, it ends with the unit, like, looking at each other like, well, fuck, because they just got Avenue F'd all over again.
Avenue F'd.
And, yep, that's the end.
The end is everyone's Avenue F'd.
Yeah, they're all Avenue F'd.
It's so... God, you just see the fear. Like, oh shit. If she realizes, we're dead.
Yeah, like, Alder's unhinged right now.
But not figuratively.
And like, using off-canon work, which Alder never does, and so Anacostia's like, I love her, but I don't put it past her right now to pull some bullshit with you guys and see this as you're against, it's Alder against whoever's against Alder. You're an enemy now, so. Wow. Interesting. But I found it really interesting that Mama Castia, like, doesn't play games with them. She's very like, well, I saw this horrible thing happen that's a big secret. And she just tells them, which I thought was...
Like, here's the information, and here's how it's going to affect you.
Right, like, what a huge thing to just be, like, flat
blurting out
honest,
at the cadets.
Yeah, Alder puppeted the president. Like, that's huge, like, treason. Like, that she's just telling these cadets very, like, flat out and honest. It's pretty wild.
Well, I remember the first time I watched that scene, I thought, wow, why are you just spilling this to these cadets?
Right.
And I just think that she, like you said earlier, she needed to pull some other people in to where she is. And these are the people that, I mean, these are obviously the people that are going to have the same viewpoint on it that she's getting towards.
I think too, I think it's part of it. And I think at this point, they're in too deep. Like Tally knew about the city drop stuff because she saw the hostages. So she's in that with Mama Castia, whether they want to be in that or not. And then they just set off this whole chain of events by telling Petra, who told the president. So I think Mama Castia's like, well, fuck it, you're in this. I might as well be honest with you. Be my allies. Like, because Alder's going to come after you too. Because she's kind of going against Alder's back with Scylla a little bit. So they're all kind of in the same position where, like, Alder could view them as threats. Or, like, you know, and Alder's just being reckless. And Mama Castia even says that. She's like, I've seen her make hundreds and thousands of tough decisions throughout my life. but I've never seen her be this reckless. So I think Mama Cassie's also kind of scared of like how Alder's behaving. Like it's very terrifying. She's never seen her do this before. So yeah, it's crazy.
Wah wah.
Wah, wah. So with all that,
Oh,
I guess
jeez.
quick
Summary.
recap. Everyone's Avenue F is the summary.
Everyone's Avenue F is the summary. Let's all go home. No, Alder desperately wants the Tareem to save the Tareem and wants the Tareem seeds to fight her war. Petra and Isadora presented Alder with the intel that it's not the spree, but she's brushed it off because she can't see through her delusion of everything right now to see that the Camarilla might have actually survived because evidence suggests it. This sets Petra even further down the path of Coup, and the unit gives her the information that she needs to really get the coup moving to give President Wade. Scylla's going on a Caribbean vacation forever and shared a heartbreaking talk with Raylla. Tally can't deal with killing civilians because she's such a pure soul and has to do something about it, not looking ahead to the consequences, and her unit follows along with that. Raylla still loves Scylla, and Scylla still loves Raylla. Newsflash, like we didn't know already. Anacastia's faith in Alder is broken. President Wade is done with Alder's bullshit and just
she's so done.
So done to the point where she says, "You're no longer in charge." Alder committed a high crime by puppeting the president, and she's so desperate. When she's backed into a corner, she's not going to give up power because she thinks that she knows best. And the unit is in grave danger if she finds out that they were the ones to leak this information.
Yeah, well said. And that's interesting, like the being backed into a corner, because that was the Salem Accord, wasn't it? Alder was backed into a corner, and so she did what she was never supposed to do, which is unleash the seeds that changed everything.
Exactly. So that you just
parallel.
It's a parallel and a pattern from her.
Yeah. Yeah.
She goes to the extreme when backed into a corner.
Which, I mean, is that not a
That's
natural
not
reaction?
a natural. That is a very natural reaction to being backed in a corner, especially if you have the powers that she does. Yeah, so exactly. She's not going to just react like someone without the ability to do work will with physical violence. She has the ability to kind of sneak around underneath that and do things like puppet the president and make everything she wants happen. Without
because is that not what happened last time she did this? She's like, I unleashed the storm that changed the world, and look where that left us. The witches have a place in the world, like, So
she started off saying, I made all this happen, and I'm the one that's going to save the world again.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this crazy train going. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
But President Wade was right that she needs to take a vacay.
She does. Like, really, truly. Like, this has to take a toll on her. It's a lot task of one person. But anyway. All right, so with all of that, this cataclysmic coup episode, who had the biggest witch energy, in your opinion?
Okay, listen, Anacostia for having the balls to go against her mentor.
We agree! Yeah, Mama Costia! Absolutely.
I mean, so other people would not seek out the truth. They could turn away from the truth about this. But Mama Costia, when she saw a crack, she went full on in there and uncovered some things that were not, though it's not to her liking, she sees the truth, she recognizes it, she takes it on board, and then she changes her course accordingly. So this was the episode where Anacostia starts diverging her path from Alder. And it took a lot of big witch energy to do that.
Yeah, she literally followed her instincts despite Sarah fucking Alder being like...
her mom in some regards.
Yeah.
And also think about how she's so smart in how she does it, because she doesn't say it to Alder outright. she poses all of these quandaries and all of these, puts out all of these, her thoughts to Alder to see what comes back at her, and then reacts.
Yeah, and I have to give it to her for protecting Scylla, all the stuff she did with Scylla, because again, that was against what Alder wanted, and she's just like, no, I gotta follow this. I feel like this is the right thing to do. So it took a lot of big energy to do that. She's the one that discovered Alder was puppeting the president. She was the only one who was like, well, this is weird. The only one. And then, knowing Alder's unhinged and just off the deep end, she still goes to protect the unit, even though she's risky. If Alder found out she was protecting the unit, that puts her in danger. So
exactly,
a lot of big witch energy from Mama Costa.
It's her little baby. She gotta protect them.
Yeah. So.
And apparently tell them everything.
Yeah, I know. Immediately. That was crazy. I feel like that was a timing thing. They're like, we don't have time in this show.
You don't have time.
Do it now.
We just got to do it now. It's not going to come out in drips and drabs like we do everything else. But yeah, Mom Costia for the win.
Yeah, for the win. Special mention to Wade, as always.
Exactly. Though you're not a witch.
Yeah, not a witch. I would have given it to you if you were a witch, but you're not, so Mama Costia gets it. Also, the biddies for making the puppeting possible. The biddies as a group.
Yeah.
Had big witch energy. And Khalidah's like casual earthquake.
Yeah, so. Khalidah's casual earthquake, but I think that Anacostia has played a lot of biddy chess to get to hone her instincts as far as intel and when to release certain information, except for that one last scene that was rushed. So
yeah, no, totally. She grew up with Alder. She had to have played these biddy strategy games, so she knows
all the biddy checkers and chess and Connect 4 you can have.
Yep. She's won a few games, and it shows.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. So that was the coup.
The coup. And so next episode we're going to be doing the season finale.
The season finale, yeah. We already made it to end of season 1.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
This is very crazy. So get buckled up for that one.
Yeah, that one's wild.
Wild.
So until then, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. And with that, we've been Big Witch Energy. If you like this episode, check out all of our other episodes right here on YouTube. Please like, comment below, and subscribe for more amazing content. Hydrate for Lesbian Jesus.